Is Canada's only urban Endurocross, featuring the biggest and most challenging course you have ever seen. This is the 2017 Red Bull Rocks and Logs from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Alongside Doug Denance. Hi there and welcome. My name is Phoenix. With the Calgary skyline as your backdrop, it is the beautifully manicured Wild Rose Motocross Park. Racers of all levels here today. Doug, wow.
About 200 of them, as a matter of fact, including some of the very best, not only in Canada and North America, but indeed the world. We've got some of them here facing off on this incredibly challenging track. And you know, at the end of the day, with Endurocross, the track is almost as big a star as the riders.
Two pro and amateur levels racing today. Some changes. One of them, a big key one, no joker lane this year.
That's right, but the difference, of course, is you've got two lanes of pro versus amateur, and that, of course, we'll talk about in our track tour when you see some of those guys going up against some of the challenges that are out here. And, of course, the idea being is that anybody who is in the stands or here watching on television or watching on YouTube or watching us on our video here wants to have the same enthusiasm that we have for this sport, which combines trials, riding, and motocross.
Rubbing is racing, Doug. You and I chatted about this. Don't think that this is going to be a one-man show. These guys are going to be nice and tight. This course, very narrow. A lot of challenges for a lot of these guys. But as you and I have just walked this course and seen it over the last little bit, expect the unexpected because it's going to happen.
Well, you know, when you put these guys together out there, you've got the combination, as I said, between motocross, which is high speed, and of course a lot of banging and clanging. And then you've also got a track that you can see here on the screen right now. They start at that Red Bull arch, drop down a 6-foot gap and into a straightaway. In the center of the screen, you can see an area that's that first turn called the wagon wheel, a set of logs fanning out like that. They've got to take either the inside or the outside line, come back down that straightaway, and then through the woodpile. You can just see it disappearing on the left-hand side of your screen. Working their way through that woodpile and then making a turn, a right-hand turn, and heading into a straightaway that is called the amateur matrix. You can see it roughly in the center of the track, those logs spread out. And then you can see two berms that are there in the center of the screen right now. The inside berm is the amateur line, a flatter rock garden and a couple of doubles. On the outside of that, you go through two huge rock piles there on the left side of the screen into an area called jail where there's logs spread out, up into a splatter, which is 6 feet, a straight up wall, and into turn number 5 that you can see at the very top of the screen. The amateurs have to go up that sand hill that you can see there in the light beige color. They come through the top side of the track there. You can see the skyline in place through an area called the Booter, which is that center jump right there, and up into the waterfall. Unbelievable 20-foot pond full of water that'll cascade down the far side.
It's the intermediate class that we are getting these guys ready, and get ready for the views that you are about to see here. This course is in beautiful condition. Shane Cuthbertson and his crew have done a magnificent job to really showcase not only Calgary, but this incredible place here at the Wild Rose Motocross Park, which we've been to a few times here before. Red Bull is definitely in the right place at the right time, the right weather, the right conditions right now.
Well, you know, you got that bit of a breeze out here as well, and that'll bring some dust up here. But the thing that's interesting is you're not going to see a whole lot of height until the very end. At that end, they've got a step up and step down tabletop, and some of these guys, including intermediates, may try to double that up, come right down the other side. Well, that wind might catch you up there and kind of change your trajectory, because after all, you got to jam hard on that brake and get into that turn, which is turn number 10, right in front. You can see the berm to the right-hand side of the start, and that's where you come back down that straightaway. Again, if there's more guys there than you think, they're going to be in that funnel. You can hear them getting started up here right now as they get things set to be able to get going with our intermediates.
There's that first drop you talked about, 6-foot drop right in front of you. This is the challenge. Again, an amazing view we have here. Our Red Bull crew is ready. We're ready, and I hope you are ready for this great race. It's the first few seconds that you really want to watch for, because this is where it, as Doug said, it funnels into this wagon wheel. Again, you cannot get speed out of here, but here we go.
Hard down that straightaway now and into that first turn. 78 out in front, Braden Petrie, but does he have it? He's on the outside, and they start to get bunched up in there right away.
It's an early lead, but forget about that. Leads come and go as quick as you can sneeze through this pile. It is, yeah, that's wood. They're going through a wood pile.
17 years old as he heads into what's called the amateur matrix. That's Petrie out in front, number 78. That amateur matrix just means that the logs are a little smaller in that triple double-double. He now turns and finds that rock garden, which are those big 6 feet by 4 foot flat rocks, and into this double. Now he'll head into the rock pile, and you can see it here, and up this shot does not do justice up that sand hill and into turn number 5.
Petrie in the lead right now. Keep in mind, 4 laps for these gentlemen. 4 laps. This is the first of 4. We'll keep an eye on the lead, but as you can see, for the first time, the challenges that these guys have, starting with this big pond.
Into the waterfall now. On the outside goes Petrie. Takes that outside line coming in there. This is the first time they'll start tracking the water down. As you mentioned, 4 laps. That's going to be a whole lot different now as he ends up in 40's Nightmare into those checkerboard squares with rocks and dirt.
They call it a nightmare for a reason. You have no way of getting around it. You basically got to get through it. And so far, these racers are doing great.
Petrie out in front right now into what we call the quad log, and here up into another place where there's water that can come down from the top of that arc that you can see there in an area we call Storm Mountain. The water will run down the backside, as you can see here, that step up. On the front side, there's a series of horizontal logs that'll get wet.
Keeping is who we've got our eye on right now as these guys continue to go through the course. Don't be losing it. One thing about this course, it's pretty secure. As we start lap number 2, here's through the wagon wheel, and it's number 59, Pete Keeping, that keeps a lead. He's taking it over from number 78, Petrie, Braden Petrie.
That's right. Keeping did very well in the preliminaries yesterday, and you can see him here using a strategy as he moves his foot down the third, at least the outside of those logs, almost like a kickstand, to try and get himself through the woodpile.
3-2-3, and off he goes. A commanding lead so far. We'll keep an eye on him. Again, the conditions are ripe for some great times. This, as you mentioned earlier, Doug, it's not as challenging as the professional section. It's a little flatter part of the course, but you still got to get past these items here, and one of those items are the rocks.
That's right, rocks and logs. And indeed, you can have a commanding lead, and that course can come up and change everything for you. As I said, that course is almost as big of a star as any of the riders here. Great shot right there of Keeping, taking that line to go up into that pond area up there, as you should see on the outside. He's now taking a very outside type of line to try and find his way through there. And that is a smart idea, to pick the lines before you end up into the obstacle.
Last count I had is about a 10-second lead for this gentleman. He is in the lead right now. That is number 59. That is Pete Keeping. Again, about a 10-second lead. He is in lap number 2. This is his 3rd lap to come up. And so far, he understands exactly what he needs to do. You've got to be in the top 3. The top 3 will move on to the finals. So far for Mr. Keeping, he's keeping it good. He's keeping his line. But some folks, like number 82, this is Justin Rokosh, struggling through the pond.
Rokosh drops the bike down. That is the nature of it here. You can see that the rocks in the bottom of that pond, that's about 3 or 4 feet of water, but in the bottom of that pond, those rocks are going to obviously come up there and challenge you because you can't see them through the mud that's there. This intermediate final right now means the top 3 positions on the podium are on the line here at this point. As we look at Pete Keeping, a hard enduro specialist, a guy who is used to running outside in hugely long periods of time, and here he's got to kind of concentrate all of that endurance that he has in those hard enduros into a very concentrated place right here at Red Bull Rocks and Logs.
How are these guys training is what I want to know. I mean, you can't really build one of these in your backyard. You probably just have to go find some bush somewhere and out you go.
Well, you can see Keeping out in front right now. Whatever he's doing is training. He'll want to share those secrets. There's no doubt about that. One of the things that you'll see these guys do, and a lot of them will do, is they'll find places to do the kind of training here. We've got a little bit of a change up now, as I understand it, in terms of our position. Keeping still in front.
Right, great time so far for this gentleman. He has found his line, and that's the key. Maintain your composure. Don't get frustrated through this course. Here he is through this section, which has been a challenge for some riders. For Mr. Keeping, like butter.
Like butter, you make it sound so easy. You know, the thing is you can see some of the riders getting hung up right there into 40's Nightmare, that checkerboard area. That's going to start getting wetter and wetter in there as they track water. Of course, we've got Max Rokosh into second and Bodrovics up into third, which I think is awesome. That's a guy who has struggled and worked hard to get there.
Well, Mr. Keeping has been held up. He's held up big time. He only has about a 12-second lead. He's in front of the beer gardens right now. Folks are looking at him, trying to give him some advice, but he just needs to get over those logs, and he doesn't.
You can see the water starting to track there and causing that tire to spin across those logs. And that, of course, is what we're talking about with the waterfall leading into 40's Nightmare. Named for Stephen Ford, who's an Endurocross legend. There's no doubt. He registered in virtually every category you can imagine that he's eligible for. But he designed that, and they looked at it and said, are you crazy to build that thing that way? Because you come down there and you're literally a checkerboard of rocks. And it's a toss-up from the point of view of water. Do you take the rocks where there might be some traction? Do you end up in the dirt areas of the checkerboard, which can be mud? I don't know. We'll have to watch and see how the track changes.
Well, this gentleman's his final lap. There's Mr. Pete Keeping. He is the one in a two-tone blue who's in the lead right now as he goes through the final section of this course. 4 laps. Top 3 will take this thing. Mr. Keeping, Rokosh, Bodrovics. That is your lineup right now. But this gentleman who we have our eyes on, who's now little held up on the outside of the wood pit right now as he makes his way through. It seems like he's walking it through.
Well, you know, he's using those boards, the logs on the outside, almost like a balance beam. Indeed, we talked about the idea of that center one, somebody riding down it. I'm not sure that that'll happen. But you can see him pick the lines each time. He's gone out here and walked this course. You talked earlier about the idea of training. A huge part of this is the mental training, and that is the concentration on the course. You'll see these riders not only in their practice laps, but earlier today, right when the sun was up, they're out there walking that course, looking at each point and trying to pick the lines that are going to give them the best chance to be able to get through here.
And what we're doing is we're watching the intermediate final right now, and once Pete Keeping finishes his round, and it looks like he's doing just fine, we're going to get Doug out there to chat with him as well too. But so far, he's holding his lead. He's actually gaining his lead. We've seen in a couple of cases too that Doug, he's actually lapping some of these guys. He's actually figured something out. This is the nightmare, 40's Nightmare that we had chatted about, but he again seems to handle it like a pro. Intermediate class, he may need to move up.
Well, you can see, yes, exactly. That's exactly as we were saying. He's like the future superstar. You can see him really using the ability of his legs as well, and being able to put that foot down. He goes up there through Storm Mountain, and he I think he's going to head into this final turn. That final turn that you don't see behind that step up where he is right now is a big sand pit. You can see the sand here as he digs his way into it and heads up towards the finish area.
There's Bodrovics, Rokosh, and Keeping. Those are your 3. Pete Keeping is doing just fine, as you can see in the final stretch. He takes a little look behind him just to realize, yeah, he's got some separation, and that's what he's hoping for. There, ladies and gentlemen, is your winner. What a great, great effort by that gentleman, Pete Keeping. Number 1 in the intermediate class. This guy competed in Red Bull Romantics Hard Enduro in 2016. What a great effort by that gentleman as we watch the remaining crew come through here. Some of the volunteer staff making sure that the course is just right and ready for these guys. And yeah, you can get held up a little bit. It's not that hard. If you think about, these guys are thinking, what do you mean not that hard, Phoenix? That is Rokosh we just saw a few moments ago. And there he is, that gentleman right there, your intermediate class winner, Pete Keeping, with a show that was fantastic. He's under the Red Bull arch, and what a look he's got there. I'll tell you, Doug is just chatting with right now. Let's go right to it. Let's go live. Doug, what can you say about Pete Keeping?
Pete Keeping, can you believe the way that this guy took over out there? Using every bit of skill from the hare scramble, using the legs across the logs, working your way to the outside on the pond. That was some pretty smart stuff, and indeed took over here in the second lap. It's got to feel like you had a real dominant situation here. I love the fact that we were talking about how you train, and the fact is typically it's outdoors, but here you got all that concentration of everything happening right here. Take us through, would you?
It's a lot different type of riding here compared to off-road, a lot higher intensity, shorter duration, so something a little bit different if you're not used to it.
We want to make sure we say thanks to the folks that have made it possible for you to be able to come out here and win like that. Let's make sure we say thanks to the folks that are going to take you to be into that pro class, no doubt, very soon.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who helped put on this event. It's a huge undertaking, and it's fantastic. Everything was well organized and a great course. And thanks to CycleWorks Foothills for helping me out.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pete Keeping, your winner right here. Watch for this guy. He's got that helmet on here right now, but you're going to be looking for this guy to be one of the top stars in Endurocross at Red Bull Rocks and Logs. Phoenix?
Taking care of business, that gentleman, Pete Keeping. What a showing for him. What an absolute gorgeous, magnificent backdrop here for the 2017 Red Bull Rocks and Logs Endurocross, live from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And we, as they say, are just getting started. All right, the stage is set. Here is the next group, and there's a whole whackload of them. This is the 40A finals. Now, this is maybe a category that you and I both might be a part of.
40A, are you kidding? By the time I get to be 40 years old. No, I'll tell you, 40A would be a long time ago for me. I would be in like the truly veteran class. The one thing that they did this year was they changed up the way that these classes were. They had originally plus 40, and what that meant was all levels of rider who would qualify from that age point of view. You had to be 40 years or older on the day of the event. Well, the change-up is that they split that group, and they now have an A group and then a B group, which ran yesterday. The A group is the sort of top skill riders in that group, and what that means, of course, is that you don't have that great huge spread of riders, from a novice all the way to a veteran here. The guy that we've got to look for in this group right there, as you can see, that 5-second board is up, is right there on the right side, number 63, Stephen Ford.
All right, here we go. We've got 12 competitors and into this funnel, and this is the fun part. It's the wagon wheel. Do you go up the middle, out the inside, or do you just stop and just hold up the pack? That's exactly what happened. Two competitors in front trying to get the other guy out of the way. Is the rest of the pack not the way you wanted to start?
There's Stephen Ford, the living legend. I got to point out, you talked about earlier, you said, well, what kind of fitness training? He's a fitness instructor.
There you go.
So that helps a lot, being able to do that. He is registered in virtually every class that he could possibly register in, and this is indeed where he is the big star, as it were, is in the veteran group here. He is an unbelievably great guy, originally from Great Britain, now makes his home here in Calgary. He's truly one of the ultimate gentlemen in this group, and we look forward to seeing him do well here, as he is the 2014 U.S. Veteran Endurocross champion.
Ford knocks right on his tail. This competition is just getting underway, and there will be leader changes. 4 laps for these gentlemen. This is the finals for the 40A class. This guy, so far, Stephen Ford, is the class of this group.
Now, of course, with the veterans here, they're taking that line that is not the pro lines through this. So again, you can see it still takes its toll. Ford designed 40's Nightmare. He went through there fairly easily. We saw some riders get hung up there. Here is number 73, Jim Titmus, who's about 50-something years old, doing a great job of being able to work his way through the waterfall as we concentrate again on Ford in that first turn, the wagon wheel.
1 lap down. He's in his second right now. This is the finals for the 40A class. The 40A class. As you can see, 40 plus, he takes a deep breath before he attacks the logs, and why not? Everyone seems to be going after that outside lane, but so far effective for a lot of these gentlemen. By the way, Doug, I noticed before this race actually started, some of the race officials were hosing down this course for good reason. It's hot out here.
It is, and the dust, of course, starts to blow as well, which I think maybe is more for the spectators than it is for our riders. But I should point out as well that Endurocross, again, combines the best of both from motocross and trials riding. Trials riding originated back in Great Britain at around the turn of the century as a way to test motorcycles in conditions like this, like you see Ford working in right now, into water, into rocks, into logs, and they tested to see how reliable these motorcycles were. It developed into its own competition called trials riding, and that man is a former Western Canadian champion in trials riding.
Ford, Knox, Middleton. That is your current top 3. Gitchell, Bowman, Langford, Dobovich, and Bullivant round up the top 8. Top 3 if you want to be a part of that, but this is the finals. You want to be able to be in the lead. Will this gentleman have enough to hold on? I mean, let's be real. He's 40 plus. He's only got so much in the tank as he's finishing lap number 2.
46 years old is what Stephen Ford is, but he races like he's, like he's 24 in terms of the way he goes. The one thing that I thought was interesting is this year he is on a full sort of motocross or endurocross style bike, that looks like a motocross bike and the longer suspension, the knobby tires and so on. Last year he raced a Beta motorcycle, which was a trials bike, which is kind of interesting. But he knew enough to have a look at this and see how that Shane Cuthbertson designed this course to combine some of those straightaways and speed sections of motocross into trials as well.
As you can see, some of the athletes are getting held up here as well. Now, we just noticed Mr. Ford, he was actually just shaking his arm a little bit.
Well, he did have thumb surgery last year. He got beat up there a few times, and indeed part of that is from the clutch, catching him as his hand went up there. But we believe that he's 100% out there. I can tell you the one thing with Stephen Ford that you always find is when you see him in the pits area, he's either helping somebody or he's sitting there smiling. You got to have a good time, and that's exactly what Stephen Ford's all about.
One of the things that you and I have found, Doug, is that a lot of these individuals, they are there to help each other out, to do their best. Yes, they're competitors when they get on the track, but they'll do anything to help their fellow rider get on the track too if they're having some sort of issues. They'll support them any way that they can. This is a family by far, as you see Mr. Ford going by the beer garden section, which seems to be a very popular place this afternoon.
Funny how that works, huh? You saw that Fordy picked up a line that he has repeated over and over again in the area that we used to call Fordy's Folly, but now everybody calls it the nightmare because it is such a tough section. But he seems to pick the same line through that. Now, if anybody had insider knowledge about Fordy's nightmare, it would be the man who designed it. And he seems to pick that line about 2/3 of the way towards the inside. So we'll see if other riders begin to pick up on that going through that section.
Well, one thing we're picking up on right now, this gentleman, number 63 rather, has only a 5-second lead in front of Nathan Knox. Nathan Knox has a chance to catch up to this guy. So far, Mr. Ford is holding on tight, but it's a close 1-2 battle right now.
Nathan Knox is another terrific rider. Knox comes out of Calgary. He's a top CMRC off-road pro rider, so he's used to the idea of speed. And it'd be an interesting balance here because, again, this course has those two areas, the speed areas or straightaways, and then as well into these areas like the trial style, as it were, where Ford should excel.
Number 2 spot, Nathan Knox. He's number 58. Keep an eye on number 58. He is right behind that gentleman, your current leader, Stephen Ford. He is on his final lap, no doubt because it zigzags this course. He looks over his shoulder. He knows where his competitors are. Again, don't lose your composure. Some folks are having some issues getting through some of these grinding parts of the section. There he is. He's your current leader, number 63, all dressed up in fluorescent yellow. You can't miss this guy.
Yeah, but see, what happens right now is, as we talked about, the thing that can change things is getting off of that rhythm, running into slower riders and unable to pick his choice line. See that back tire spin? This gives Knox a chance to be able to catch up.
Ford, Knox, Middleton, who's number 60. So those are the 3 numbers you're looking for. 63, 58, and 60, your top 3. This is the finals for the 40A. There is Mr. Ford coming over the top, looking for a sharp left-hand turn. He's not done yet. He looks over his shoulder, and he knows he's got it.
Interesting choice as he let the riders go by him so he could pick the line to get through the turn. This sand is pretty deep in there, as you can see him grinding that back tire. Here we go.
There he is, and he is your champion. Yeah, he's a little held up, but he knows he's got it. He's got it. That gentleman, Stephen Ford, he's your 40A final winner.
Interesting, the transponder that he's got attached to that, which is what gives us our lap times, and of course our spectators here can see it up on the big screen as well. It gives us our lap time. That transponder code is at the far end of that jump, so he stopped there in front of the checkered flag and changed his lap time.
That's a lot of fun, and boy, it's been a lot of fun to watch these 40 plus do their thing as we see the remainder of the field coming through right now. As we talked about, Doug and I were talking about those ruts. You can see it's a bit more of a challenge for these athletes as they make their way through this course. A tremendous spectacle today, and what a fantastic race for Stephen Ford. Again, some of these athletes, that is, you're looking at number 69, Craig Thompson, who's just trying to make his way through the course, and an effort that we truly appreciate here, the Red Bull Rocks and Logs. Here's how it all started in that funnel, round the wagon wheel. What a challenge for some, and there slowed up the field right there, but a lot of them, and this gentleman, Stephen Ford, attacking this course, not losing his composure. What a brilliant effort by that gentleman. He found his line earlier in the race. No doubt he's been watching some of the other racers, held it on really tight, and he knew exactly what he needed to do, getting some great air time and enjoying this incredible course at Wild Rose Motocross Park here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We hope you're enjoying this. And again, as we said, more great racing to come. No doubt that his injury to his hand, to his thumb, was not much of an issue. He was doing just fine as he made it through this course. What a spectacle for that gentleman, and so much fun with the Red Bull Rocks and Logs, Doug.
Well, I went out there to try and find Stephen Ford, but he's right back there on the line, as you can imagine, because we've got a 30A plus race, and he, of course, qualifies for that as well. So he's got himself back up there in the line. He's not talking to anybody. He's just taking a deep breath, grabbing some oxygen, talking to the paramedics, getting about 4 Red Bulls in him to give him wings, and he's ready to go.
How do you do that? Now, here's a lot of guys that are in multiple races today, and you're going to hear their names a few times over. With the heat, and it is something. We're looking at about 26, 28 at the last count here. It is toasty. Yes, there's a bit of a breeze, but when you're under a hot machine like that and you're giving it your all, you're trying to catch your breath, you're trying to make this thing work. How do you go from race to race? It's the pre-training, Doug, that I'm guessing that these guys have to have.
Well, as I mentioned with Ford, he is a fitness instructor, so he is in great shape. But the interesting thing is there's another side to that conversation. And that is when you look at Endurocross outdoors, and Endurocross over like 50 miles, you know, for hours and hours and hours outside. Those kind of racers are used to this idea of that hot, hard grind with wind and dust. The interesting thing, the other side of this could be, is that Ford now has the rhythm of this course built in. He's gone through a series of laps here already. He's been out in front, he's run into riders, he's had all the conditions that may indeed he will run into here in the 38 plus. The difference, of course, is younger riders. Younger riders who maybe not necessarily fitter, but perhaps a little more reckless, a little more excitable when they get out there.
And some fresh legs as well. So they've seen these athletes, and we're going to see a bunch more. Let's take a look at this great lineup, including another Clint Bowes, who we chatted about last race. He's in this one. Pete Keeping, the winner of the intermediate, he's here. Ryan Middleton, who also made it in the top 3 of our last race. All of these are key racers to look for in this 30A class, 30 seconds away from start.
One of the guys that I think is awesome out there is the guy that we call Ninja, number 27, Kevin Nyhouse, who went right from his heat into this final yesterday. So he has been here and he's ready to go. As you talked about fresh legs, and this guy can be just as stealthy as a ninja as we get underway.
Inside, outside lane, there are 12 competitors. They go from a funnel right into the wagon wheel. This can make and break for a lot of these athletes as they're pushing their way. They're stalling because there's guys in the way, but there are 2 of them that have made the lead in the pack. Mr. Bowes at number 1.
Clint Bowes gets out in front like that, the Grand Prairie guy, as he's out there. He's 2016 Rocks Logs 30 plus. He finished up 3rd here, so he's looking forward to being number 1. That's for sure.
These guys have 12 riders, 4 laps. This is the finals of the 30A class finals for Endurocross. That current leader, that is number 7, Clint Bowes.
Bowes looking very dominant out here right now. He's he came to this sport, or came to the idea of Red Bull Rocks and Logs after watching it on video.
Nice.
And said, you know, I got to be a part of that. And look at this. He's out in front right here, right now, as he heads into 40's Nightmare.
You can see the Ninja trying to pounce. He knows who's in the lead. He's staying behind him, and maybe that's his current strategy. Follow the line of Bose and see if that can't be your benefit. There's a two-man race right now, a difference of about 7 seconds. Still, you can make that up pretty quick as we're coming around to the first of 4 laps. There is your current leader, number 7. That is Clint Bose. No doubt his brother is going, come on, baby, come on, baby.
Well, maybe it's lucky number 7 for Clint. I'm not sure. I love the idea of how he came in to be this. Nyhouse says he's got his own agenda, and that's not necessarily just to be in the top 3 of the race, but he also wants to get his wife to come out and race one day. He's got his kids involved and so on. You got to like that. He comes from Calgary, and we like to call him the Ninja because he is a little bit stealthy. We'll see if your strategy idea is right. If he's just biding his time, there's not much space between him here, just the width of the matrix.
If you are watching online, we thank you very much. If you are live today, we also appreciate a shout out, if you will, on Twitter, hashtag Red Bull Rocks and Logs. Red Bull Rocks and Logs. Send out your tweet, take a few pictures. I hope you're enjoying it as much as we're enjoying calling this today. Doug Denantz, my name is Phoenix, over an area that a lot of these athletes have said, this is the part that scares them the most. For the most part, not that they can't handle it, it's the unpredictability of coming down this stretch.
Well, look at Kevin Dupree here, coming right up behind there, a native of Quebec, but now residing in Calgary. Not a bike width between them as they go through 40's nightmare here. The water on those tires, you can see it glistening here as they come through it.
Number 7, Clint Bose. Number 10, Kevin Dupuis. Number 21, Mr. Pruckow. Those 3 are the ones to watch for. May I remind you, this is the finals. Number 1 takes it all. Number 1 takes it all, and so far, this gentleman, number 7, Clint Bose, is trying to hold and maintain his lead, but he is being challenged by number 10, Kevin Dupuis. Let's see how this all shakes out.
Dupuis, of course, is a great racer. He lives in Calgary. 2015, he placed 3rd in amateurs in Rocks and Logs, so it tells you that he's certainly coming along here at 30 years old. AJ Procu, he did not finish this race the last time. In 2016, last year, he was unable to complete the race. So maybe his goal here is just to be in the top 3, but actually to finish this race, as it is the most physically enduring sport in the world.
We saw Clint Bose a few moments ago almost losing it. Again, composure is a part of this game. He has got some great speed, coming back off the throttle, engaging the brake, finding his line, using his leg as leverage, a different type of racing, but that's what you have to do on this course. You change your styles every time you go through different turns.
You talked about good strategy on turn number 5 that you saw him come up the sandhill. He took it on an angle like a turn. Here he's way on the outside of the pond, trying to find the most shallow place to be able to get through. You'll notice that a number of the riders have chosen either inside or outside. Not many are going right straight through the middle because of the water, of course, and unknown what is underneath there. And I can tell you that having seen that pit empty yesterday, there's a number of rounded rocks inside of there that when you put water together with it gets real slippery.
And maybe a few alligators too. I mean, these guys might be thinking, wait a minute, what other little surprise have you done as well? What a great race for this gentleman. Look at those ruts, man. We talked about it earlier, Doug. They have really grinded that part of the section big time. Maybe a bit of a challenge for some of these riders.
Not too much time between these guys, and indeed this is perhaps the time when, as you talked about, composure, fitness, all of those things start to play a part in it, in the sense of being able to hold on here. Bose has been out in front since that first turn, got that hole shot position. We have not necessarily seen that makes a difference in the race. Now, he has certainly been able to do it here in this final, but we'll see, because Dupuis is right there behind him. And Bose has to be wondering here, you know, how close is he really? He kind of not really glancing over his shoulder, riding his own race. But there's, what, about 4 seconds between them?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see it on your screen that this guy is still trying to hold on. He realizes how tight a race this is going to be. He is a Grand Prairie native. This guy understands Alberta and the Alberta heat and the dust and the wind. He's ready for this course. But right behind him, man, Kevin Dupuis taking the inside line, Doug.
Dupuis just got him on the inside here. Oh, and Bose got the bike a little bit wet. You saw the engine steam.
We talked about if he was going to hold up. But wait, it's not over yet, because right behind him, Mr. Bose is not ready to give this up. It's a 2-man race, but number 10, Kevin Dupuis, holds the lead. He's holding his ground, and he is doing his best to hang on.
Dupuis trying to get up there as quick as he can, up over the top there where the mud is. Now through this straightaway, one turn to go before he picks up that checkered flag, and indeed, biding your time may have been the strategy all the way along.
What a big sigh of relief for this gentleman as he crosses that finish line. Wow, what a race! The checkered flag for this guy who finds his way in the last 15 seconds to win this race. Kevin Dupuis, what a spectacle for that guy. Disappointment for number 7, Clint Bowes, as he comes into second position, followed by, yes, it's Mr. Ford, Stephen Ford, but again, we talked about the race, and how about a race of a lifetime for number 10, Kevin Dupuis, out of nowhere, waiting for his moment to pounce, and he does just that. Middleton, Ryan Middleton, as you're looking for now, as the remainder of the pack come across. Wow, what a great showing by number 10, Kevin Dupuis, and Doug is with him now.
Well, I'm just waiting to get him up here, catching his breath and getting a little adulation here, a little kiss on the cheek as we wait for Kevin Dupuis to come on up here. What a interesting piece of strategy from this guy, formerly of Quebec, now a Calgarian. But I'll tell you, you waited until the last possible moment. It was the inside line that took you around on top of the waterfall. The inside line got by him there and didn't look back. Was that the strategy all the way along, to just wait for the opportunity?
Well, since the practice this morning, I went the inside line, and seems like works good for me, and he just laid off as he was coming in the water, and I'm like, well, go for it. It's the only chance I had.
You know, you got to take the chances when the chances get there. But that was an awesome bit of racing. Who do we got to thank to have you come out here and be able to do that just at that last moment in the last quarter of that race?
All my sponsors, right? And the wife let me ride, and yeah, I just put everything I had, and it was awesome. Thanks to Red Bull.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you for being here. I want to call Stephen Ford over here. Come on over here, Steve. 40 won the 40A competition there. We were talking about it and saying, how could you possibly race back-to-back? What's the secret to the fitness for you?
Well, I was really hoping they were going to do the podium after the 48, then I would have had 5-10 minutes to rest, but they loaded us up and let us go, so you just got to suck it up and get on with it.
You know, I only hope that when I get to be 46 years old, I'm half the athlete that you are. I want you to know that.
I could really do with a chair up here right now.
Who do we got to thank for you to be able to not only be the living legend of Endurocross right here, but of course a winner of the 40A division?
Really, I think Beta Canada, Blackfoot Direct, Rhino Powers fueling me right up, Gibson tyres, Fastway, Bulletproof, Matrix, art levers, Shift, Former, MD Distribution.
You know, I can't believe you remembered all of that without having the bike here to be able to look at it like a cue card. We just talked to Kevin Dupuis, 30A winner, and Stephen Ford, the 40A winners, right here at Red Bull Rocks and Logs. Phoenix?
What a showing for that gentleman, Stephen Ford. What a showing for Kevin Dupuis. 30A final winner. What a showing this has been today. A great challenge for every single one of these racers. Again, we see the sweat coming off of Stephen Ford's brow. Why not? These guys are all dressed up, but they are excited for a day that has more in store for you. The 2017 Red Bull Rocks and Logs Endurocross from Calgary, Alberta, Canada is just getting started, and so far we've seen incredible drama, and in that 30-plus, Kevin Dupuis coming in from behind with less than a third of the course remaining. What a great showing for him. Again, thanking all of his sponsors, and why not, and thanking you for being a part of this. But we are not done yet. Doug and I were chatting about it a few moments ago, and we are excited, I hope you are too, for something called the Pit Bike Race. It gives a chance for all of these athletes to, well, put a little snicker on their face, and why not? We also have the last chance qualifier, the expert class, the pro hot laps coming up, the ladies finals, and of course the pro finals. As we take a look at our next race, we mentioned the little teeny weeny bikes. With the big athletes and the teeny weeny little bikes, this is one that we sit back, Doug, and we just relax and say, let's just enjoy, pal.
You know, we got a pit bike out there that looks like a Vespa to me. I think it should be heading in downtown Calgary right there. These little bikes, can range around the 50 or 100 cc. And they were originally where the kids got started. I used to always call these guys the future superstars when they came out here and raced. Well, the thing is
it is a Vespa. Wait a minute.
I'm telling you, it is. It's just like that. Now, the thing that's interesting here is that pit bike racing, especially in California, since about the year 2000 or so, has really taken off. I think it was the Crusty Demons of Dirt 3 movie that 2001 that had guys doing crazy stuff on pit bikes, and all of a sudden everybody went, "These are awesome! This isn't just for little kids. Like, let's get out there and have some fun."
Well, when we watch these guys on this course, though, yes, it's fun, but they're going to have some challenges. I mean, the amount of power that you need to get up and over some of these rocks. This might just be a push bike race.
I might be a carry, lift, throw up ahead of you type bike race. Right. One of the things that you might see here as a strategy is the idea of, you can see some of them have knobby tires, a little bit longer, suspension, maybe a little bit bigger bore in the engine. But one of the things that you might see here as a strategy is where guys look like they make mistakes in practice. For example, they'll go up on a lift, on a jump, and the bike will get ahead of them. It'll fly up over top of it. So you might see these guys using the technique of launching the bike, getting it ahead of you, and then getting off and following it up on wherever it ends up. The interesting thing is if you look at the size of the tires here, and you know how deep the waterfall pond is, I think you're going to see a submarine race up on top of there.
Doug, you're making me laugh when you say there's an actual strategy to this racing. The strategy might be just, can I finish this? Well, guess what? Guys, we're going to make it interesting for you. We're going to have you do this course twice. We're going to have him do two laps of absolute fun. If you don't think this is fun, just take a look at this. 2 laps, get your cameras ready, get your phones ready, take some pictures, and while you're doing it, make sure you place it on our social media sites. # Red Bull Rocks and Logs.
You're getting excited about this, aren't you?
Excited in maybe a way that I shouldn't be, because I feel for these guys, and they haven't even started.
Next year, I think we got to have a street bike race. You can bring the Harley out. I'll bring my Harley out. We'll make it right down the starting line. That'll be it. You'll never get over top of the wagon wheel. We'll have to see how these guys do that, because there needs to be a bit of strategy here, including things like loading suspension, powerful legs.
Yeah.
You got to somehow be able to figure out how you are going to get over. And thank goodness they're not using the pro line. I mean, you have to go up the 6-foot splatter wall. That'd be a whole different ballgame. And the matrix logs, if you look at the amateur matrix logs, they're about the size of those width of those tires. So it'll be interesting to see how they do through there.
I am so excited for this Vespa. There you go. He's excited. All right, let's open this thing up. Let's get these guys going. Who wants to see this? I know we do. It is the pit bike race. And it might be a few pitfalls for some of these gentlemen, but that's okay. It's all part of the fun. And what's with this modern day helmet? That's competitor number 62. What kind of helmet is that on his head?
I think that he's actually got 6'2", because that's how tall he is. He's got an open face helmet there. You're looking very California, that's for sure. Well, we're going to see how this works out. What's interesting is we finally figured out who these guys are.
Who admitted they wanted to do this.
Yes, exactly. And we recognize Luke Sador's number in there as number 156, and he's the only guy I'm going to talk about at this point.
When these guys are looking out at the course, they realize they're just here to have a lot of fun. And that's part of this great sport, and that's what this is all about. When you look at the culture and the family, the community that is a part of this, we are 30 seconds away, you realize just how much fun that these athletes have. Yes, they train for it. Yes, they're competitive. But every now and then, you got to put down the big bikes, you got to pull up the small ones and say, let's just give her. Who wants to do it? What a vantage point. It's a 6-foot drop. There goes our Vespa.
Vespa is down right away. 161, Spencer Kennedy.
Oh, my. Well, maybe we should count how many times these guys actually come off the bike. Wow.
Well, the thing that's good about this is that your legs are longer than the suspension, so you're able to, sort of dial yourself around here. Mike Decknotter is out in front. He's guy with the mohawk, and he walks it across the outside.
Why not? That's the way to do it. Yeah, take some of these pictures. Again, # Red Bull Rocks and Logs. And when you see this, you're probably saying to yourself, yeah, I wouldn't mind trying this.
Now, did I not tell you that there was strategy? Did you see that? He bounced it across there, walked it across here. Maybe not quite so much strategy in this section in the matrix, but you see what I mean? He's probably thought this out, at least until that first turn.
I wonder if it'd be easier for a lot of these guys to just put this bike on their shoulders and walk this course. Once you get, this is exhausting. Look, and they're stalling out the bikes too. My heavens.
I'm pretty much sure that we're not talking fuel-injected motors here. You know what I mean?
No.
If I was running a pit bike, I think I'd want an electric start. That's for sure. Look at this. We got a whole. It looks like a traffic jam at downtown Calgary at 5 o'clock.
The Vespa actually has a light on the back. Are you kidding me? Do you actually want to?
Well, you know, to be fair, in a lot of the Endurocross bikes, they will have lights. They'll have lights on the front and the back because a lot of times they're running on a piece of roadway or running at night and so on. But the Vespa would not have been my first choice, particularly because the slick tires are probably a detriment right there.
So you're not even thinking about the engine. You're more concerned about the tires, really. Probably got that thing off of Kijiji somewhere. Okay, here's the fun part. We want to see these guys in the pond area. Wait a minute. What the heck are we looking at here? Oh, my heavens.
Well, they're fighting their way up there right now. That's Michael Himmelman, I think, who's on the outside. And Mike is number 160 here. Decknotter is trying to find his way up here now. We'll have to look for the Mohawk up on top of the pond here as he looks like he might sink down inside of it.
There's a point that each of these racers are saying to themselves, what was I thinking? And the point might be right here. No, it's not. This is an actual race here, gentlemen.
Well, you got to keep that back tire moving, and he does pretty good through that pond. He actually took an inside line. We saw that with our earlier race right there.
Now he's stuck.
Now he's got to come down the outside of this waterfall here, and of course, I'm not sure that the water will make as much difference as the steepness of the exit.
Is there a part of you at home that's saying to yourself, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind doing this? Really? We have 2 laps, and the first one might take 20 minutes, Doug.
You know, I am interested to see what the lap times are because they may be a world record for lap
slowest time.
For lap times here at Rocks and Logs from Red Bull. But you know what? You got to like the idea of having some fun, and that's what these guys are doing. Now, I want you to point out that it is a race, and number 62 is behind right now. He's walking his way, and now they're having a conversation out here. I think they're working some strategy together.
Well, they're passing by the beer gardens. Anybody want to give them a little liquid courage while they're going by? Man, these guys, by the way, in the backdrop, look at the numbers here today. This has been a great turnout. We hope you're having as much fun as we know and are sure that these guys are as well too. Maybe not so much fun lifting your bike through this race, but still a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got to point out there in that pond area, you saw number 146, Tyler Wendland. And it's great when you see him shift the bike into first with his hand down onto the shifter instead of his foot. Well, we're coming up here to Storm Mountain right now.
You mean you're walking up Storm Mountain?
Well, you're going to be slipping because remember, it's pretty wet there, right? That water's all run down the backside and into that pit area down there.
I love the helmet from the 1960s at least. Why not? It's an effort. They still haven't finished lap number 1. There's a little momentum to get him down through the rest of the course.
Michael Himmelman has a glance over his shoulder to just see how close his competitors are. They still haven't tripped off the transponder timer. I don't even think we're going to do that. I think we'll just estimate it in calendars.
Give them a round of applause as they come by here. This is quite an effort. You know, you think about a little 30-second or 30-minute workout you have at the gym, forget about it. This workout is more than intense. He's got his overalls on?
He does.
He's from the pit somewhere. He was working on his bike. He's got just throw it on.
He's got the coveralls on. He looks like he's an old Evel Knievel guy as he picks up the checkered flag. I think they gave him some mercy and not have to do that second lap.
I believe they did. How much fun was that, folks? Yeah, give it up for them. That was a lot of fun. Somebody give him a shower and a massage.
Michael Himmelman picks up the win right there. Now we'll have to get some extra security over here to keep all the fans away from him. I know everybody will want to get his autograph.
It's called the Pit Bike Race. How come you're not out there talking to them, Doug?
I don't think it's going to take quite a while for them to get back here, and I'm pretty sure they're out of breath by the time we come and see them.
Okay, well, we've thoroughly enjoyed that, but the good news is we have so much more challenging racing to go. Anybody want a free Vespa? I have a feeling this sucker is going to be free by the end of this race, if and when that ever happens.
Can you see it on Kijiji? Just slightly used.
Slightly used. It's been over some rough surfaces. You know what? Here's a thought. Leave it in the middle of the pond and let it sit there. That'll be the obstacles for these guys over the next little bit. Well, again, as we watch the remainder of the pack get through this pack, what does that say on the back of his, say, Apocalypse?
I think it's a soccer club.
Well, who else would sponsor something like this? Uh-oh. Not sure about this move.
Not sure about this one, no.
Yeah. A Vespa in a pond. Yep, leave it there. Just leave it there.
You know, you gotta like the attitude though to continue on through and do your best out of that. Our Vespa doing the job right there.
And this is how it started. Speaking of Vespas, yeah, it's the one laying on the ground.
Well, dropping a Vespa down a 6-foot, log stack is probably not a good idea to begin with.
What did you say, Doug? Slightly used?
Slightly used.
Yeah, slightly used.
And I think you said over some rough surfaces.
Yeah, my ego damaged from this as well. Well, you know what? He may have a date later. It sure makes up for a great story when you're hanging out in the beer gardens. And this is your ultimate winner, the ultimate helmet, the ultimate gear.
Taking the checkered flag in the slow motion replay as Himmelman just drops down over that first bump.
Yeah.
Legs out to the side like a rodeo rider. Gotta like that.
Oh, yeah. And, boy, I tell you, credit to all of these riders for literally hanging onto their bikes. Somebody's got to get out there and help Mr. Vespa. Yeah, what does it say? Apocalypse Soccer Club.
Well, I think the one thing that I'm seeing here is he's got like a leather jacket on in 28-degree heat. He's trying to get things started out here.
Yeah, well, we're going to get Doug out there, too, so he can just chat with our Vespa winner. Well, no, not our Vespa winner, the guy with the helmet from the 1960s, as we watch the remainder of the field. Oh, great. Now he can't get it started. Somebody over there, he's using his arm to get his Vespa started. Here's a thought. Just leave it. Anybody want a slightly used Vespa? If you see this, I can see the folks in the beer garden taking some pictures. Yeah, remember, hashtag Red Bull, Rocks and Logs. It is all part of the fun. And actually, talk about the fun. You want to talk about a guy who took on the challenge of taking his ride through this course, the pit bike race. Well, here he is with Doug Denance as he pulls up to Doug. As Doug Betts said earlier, probably breathing pretty heavily. Doug, introduce us to this wonderful, wonderful character who is racing today.
Well, he's just showing you his back here right now because he's looking out here at the fans. I think he's picking out which girls he's going to come and date. As he won the pit bike racing here in this old school look right here. Mike Himmelman, number 62. I thought it said 6'2" there, but you're not quite that tall. Turn back around over here and look at our fans here and let us know what the strategy was to get out there. Phoenix has said you might have had to hit 2 laps, but 1 lap was probably enough, huh?
1 was definitely enough. Strategy was just pin it. I had no strategy whatsoever.
But I do like the outfit. I think the outfit added a lot to that, the old school open face helmet, that sort of thing. Was the idea maybe to get all of the fans, both at home, on the computers, and right here live on your side to be able to kind of give you that little extra horsepower?
It was actually inspired from the movie Hot Rod. My better half stayed up till 3 in the morning making this outfit for me, so thank you, Ashley. So,
have we got anybody else to thank?
I just want to thank my whole family for the support to come out and watch me today. And my niece, she showed up late, but she's here.
You know something, ladies and gentlemen, I think the only way to do this is to be able to say this like we should for this guy. Ladies and gentlemen, your pit bike winner, Mike Himmelman. Woo! Phoenix.
Sometimes the best strategy is no strategy at all. Wow. All right, we're getting back to the nitty-gritty here at the 2017 Red Bull Rocks and Logs Endurocross, live from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So much more to come, including the expert class, the pro hot laps. We have the ladies finals, and yes, we also have the pro finals as well too. It's the 2017 Red Bull Rocks and Logs, live from downtown Calgary. More to come.
YCOM Solutions, a proud supporter of the Chasing Limits series and Alberta amateur sports. Visit ycom.ca for details on their full list of communication products and services.
Attention! Attention! Prisoner escape in cell block B! Oh no! That makes sense.
Red Bull gives you wings.
With the Calgary skyline as your backdrop, it's the beautifully manicured Wild Rose Motocross Park, the site of the 2017 Red Bull Rocks and Logs Endurocross from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, alongside Doug Denance. Hi there, and again, welcome. My name is Phoenix. Doug, last chance qualifier. Who are these folks, and why is it exciting for them to get in?
Well, last chance qualifier is exactly what you'd say here, is that you want to make sure that this is your last chance to be able to qualify for the final. In the earlier rounds, we saw the heat races where the top three in the pros went on to the final. In other words, they get a bye for this last chance qualifier. For those who are up to come to the line right now, including Spencer Wilton, you see right there, number 13, number 2, Mike Aranda, there, number 8, Jeremy Bowes. These guys have the last chance to be able to qualify and be able to move to the final. And so that's why I often think that a last chance qualifier is sometimes the most exciting race, because you've got to let it all hang out. There's no holding back. There's no second chance. This is the last chance. So with any luck, we will see a spectacular race here with these guys fighting it out for those final positions.
You see the umbrella in the background. Yes, it is hot. Hot for these racers, hot for these volunteers. And why not? Bring up a little umbrella. Oh, now we're going to get rid of the umbrella. Oh, I see how that works. Okay. Little prima donna didn't need the umbrella anymore.
You know, I'll tell you something, that in the world of motocross and Endurocross, there is a specific position called an umbrella girl, just so you know.
Stop it.
I'm not kidding you. An umbrella girl. I was last year at the Superbike Championships, and the guy who won there, his wife has been his umbrella girl for about 13 years.
We have 6 racers who are ready to go. We have also 7 now. I believe we have 11 in this pack, last chance qualifiers. Now, let's just put some perspective in this. We've already had a half day of racing here today from the Wild Rose Motocross Park. And as these racers get set, get ready to go, they have seen the pros take and challenge this course, so they know what to do. Are they taking the amateur routes? Now there's 2 of them, or are they taking the pro routes?
No, the pro guys will be taking that pro route that you saw. You saw the lap times of around minute 40 in that pro area. Those 2 sections again, coming out of the amateur matrix on the north end of the track. You make a large right-hand turn, then go up over a couple of rock logs into the jail area, which are those vertical logs, and then to that splatter, which is that wall up into turn number 5 in the northeast corner of the track. When you come back on the other side, the northwest corner of the track, and come down through 40's Nightmare out of the waterfall, you end up making a slight left-hand turn and end up in the pro matrix with those larger logs, then another looping turn back across the top of the amateur track and up onto Storm Mountain as the 2 lines that are different for pros from the amateurs.
We are literally minutes away from the last chance qualifiers, making sure all the racers are in place. You'll notice there are 6 of them up front. The remainder of the pack is actually in the back, and they will all leave at the same time. We talked about this 6-foot drop that's right in front of the Red Bull arch. And once they get past that point, they're coming into a funnel area, and they'll all converge again. We are literally seconds away from the last chance qualifiers, making sure we have all the racers ready to go for this event that is going to be spectacular.
I have identified the most dangerous job on the track right now. And that, of course, is Paige out there with that 30-second board. Because when she holds up that 5-second side, it means any time within that 5 seconds, that start can happen. You want to see a girl run, watch her run.
Paige, we appreciate your efforts. We also appreciate the efforts of all the volunteers and the countless hours that have been put together to put this great course that Shane Cuthbertson, a local who understands the challenge, who understands what it means to have a lot of fun and to add some competition to this. Shane last year put the course together. We thought it was dramatic then. Now he's done it again, even more dramatic fashion. There you go. 30 seconds, Paige. Thank you very much. These guys are staring right at her. They have every reason to. Why not? Less than 30 seconds before we get underway with the last chance qualifier.
You can hear the power of those four-stroke bikes as they get things started up here. Fuel injected, of course. The problem, of course, is that if you drop that thing down, it has a tendency sometimes to stall, so you want to keep the rubber side down, the helmet side up as they get set to go.
And there they go. Elbows up, heads up, and there they go into what we call this little funnel area. This right here is called the wagon wheel. Oh, and already we got one captain.
We're looking there to see who comes out on top of it all, and that is number 13, Spencer Wilton. Guy comes out of Calgary, does a great job, but all dressed in red there. I think that's that aggressive style of his. Rocky Mountain Honda Powerhouse is a sponsor for him.
Brilliant vantage points we have from all of our camera crew. Thank you very much as they take the pro line. Now there are two different lines, the amateur line and the pro line, but because they are the last chance qualifiers, we're going to challenge them through areas like this one, the jail area.
And up that great big splatter wall, you saw it make it look easy to load up that suspension. A little bit longer, perhaps, in that suspension. Maybe a little softer tires to help to get up on top of there. After all, you only have to have those tires last for racing, and that may have been some of the strategy here as well. Wilton had trained a lot in terms of getting his abilities up by training in Phoenix, so the hot weather shouldn't necessarily be a big deal to him.
Wilton, Bose, head. There's a great shot, a nice one, nice tight of it. The technique that this gentleman is using. Oh, and he stalls out, but no, he gets it back and going. Oh, and he hits his front tire. He's stuck. It gives a chance, an opportunity for Bose to come in right behind him and take the early lead.
That is that pro matrix area, the second pro line, as you saw those larger logs, but they are spaced exactly far enough apart to trap a motorcycle just like they did there.
Right into your living room. There you have the early leader. That is Bose, followed by Wilton as they come around the first of 4 laps. The first of 4 laps. The black flags is your your finish line right there. 1 lap down, 3 to go, and this young man is in the lead. Let's just confirm him again.
That's Philippe Shane up in front there, number 15, who's got that by there. The guy from Quebec comes here every year to race like this, and he knows now that he's got a race to go, because I can tell you right now that Spencer Wilton will not take that lightly, having that hole shot taken away from him.
Shane, Wilton, 1 and 2. The top 3 will advance to the finals. So far, that gentleman from Quebec dominating the course. You can see the separation, only about a 3 to 5 second separation. Still easy enough for Mr. Bose to catch up.
Up on top of that double log or double rock pile there, that makes it, they look at easy to come up over top there, but part of the deal is when you come and enter that section, you almost have to be lining up your jail line to be able to go between the logs.
With the zigzagging course, you can find who your competitor is, and you can also see the separation. This area right in here has scared a lot of these riders, and they realize that's the area that's pretty difficult as we make it through here.
Top 6 will head out onto this as well. That'll put the 6 in the back of the line and 6 at the front of the line. That'll give us a 12-rider heat at the end of this. And Shane is trying to make sure that he's one of those guys. Oh, and he almost takes the bike out. You can see there as he tried to get a little bit extra traction, bouncing his way through that matrix. It is so lumpy, bumpy through there.
And there, I was about to say, there's a leader change. And struggling to get through, and he does it. That's number 13, Spencer Wilton, currently your leader in the second of 4 laps.
Did I not tell you that the last chance qualifier can be the most exciting race? These two guys are working it back and forth here. It's like a final between the two of them. Top 6 will go on, but Shane and Wilton are playing playing this like it's a final for 1 and 2, the way that they're racing here, and you got to love that from an entertainment standpoint.
Yeah, some great airtime too, and you also saw the ruts that are being formed in this course. These guys are aggressively going at it. They have a line. Now this is interesting strategy. Watch Philippe Shane if he follows the same line as Spencer Wilton. So far, he is going to probably do what we saw a couple of races ago, just lay back and wait for his time to pounce. But these guys are wheel to wheel. Now it looks like Philippe wants to take the lead, and he does so.
Wheel to wheel banging some steel, handlebars, rims, and everything else, along with logs and rocks. You got to like it here as these two guys are battling it out there. Oh, and there's the problem as you come up over top of that log into that double rock pile. You can see again two things that happened. One was picking the line, and secondly, the rider causing the variable in that line that Wilton tried to pick.
Philippe Shane backs his bike up to get a running start, and there we go. The race continues, but it's still a battle between, these two gentlemen. Philippe Shane is trying to push it. Now there's a separation between second and third, but it's a big one. So Philippe Shane can actually still stay in the running here. Top 6 advance. It's Mr. Wilton who's now taking the lead again.
Well, Philippe Shane went to jail right there as he came down into this between the logs, and the bike did not come down behind him. In other words, that front wheel went to the right place, but the back wheel came down, bounced off of the log, which sent him face down into jail.
I've just noticed here on the left-hand part of your screen, one of the volunteers is helping out one of the riders. Now, only the volunteers are allowed to help, correct?
Track officials are the only ones that are allowed to be able to help out there. By the way, if you also go off the course, you got to come back in the same place, but only the track officials are able to help out riders, and some of them certainly are going to need it here as they work their way through for that top 6.
Your current leader is Spencer Wilton, number 13, all dressed in red. Curious why he's still struggling through this course as he comes up on another one of his laps. He's obviously seen this course before, but these two, the top 2, Philippe Shane and that gentleman, Spencer Wilton, having some issues through the course. Why, Doug?
Well, I think the idea is a couple of things. One is that they know that this is a last chance qualifier, so unless you are able to make it into that top 6, we've also seen what you had said earlier, Phoenix, and that is that when you have the track come up and become a star, take you out, it doesn't take long for somebody to be able to catch up, especially if you end up getting trapped in some place like that Pro Matrix, where that back tire, or 40's Nightmare, where that back tire begins to spin, you can't get yourself off of it. After all, you got to be able to push that motorcycle and pull it out of there.
Boy, some clever riding by that gentleman. Here's your current leader, and you can see the separation between first and second. It looks like Spencer Wilton is now taking more of a lead than he had over Philippe Shane. Again, these riders are probably using a little strategy now. They're saying to themselves, wait a minute, top 6 will advance. I'm not going to kill myself. I'm just going to get through this and get through it safely. As we see one of the riders, number 8, Jeremy Bowes, who just spills right in front of us.
Well, you know, and Wilton, again, as you said, the idea is why were they having struggles with the course? Well, when you go to pick a line like that, and there's, a rider down in front of you, head in front of you in that line where you need to go, you have to pick a different line. That throws that rhythm off a little bit. And of course, the idea being is that part of the feel of this course is to get that rhythm, have that confidence, know and make those confident choices. And when things change like that, it gets to be a bit frustrating.
Well, we saw just a few moments ago where Philippe Shane is. He's just entering the pond right now. And stuck up is this gentleman, Spencer Wilton. Philippe Shane in the background, you can see passing him right now. The current leader is in front of you. The lead change has happened a 3rd time in this race on the final lap.
In around the 2-minute mark for these laps of these pros, they're going to have to be faster than that in order to be able to be a finalist for sure. But I think it's rather interesting that we were just talking about how the track can make the change. A little bit of a rhythm change. You saw him get stuck on top of those large 3-foot logs in the Matrix.
And here we go. We had almost a lead change, but Wilton loses it. Wow, this is not going to end the way that a lot of these racers are thinking, but that is your current leader right now coming into your living room. That is number 15, Philippe Shane, on the final lap of this qualifying round.
Man, I can't think of how often you see this in last chance qualifying when things can change up so quickly like that. Well, after all, we see the top 6 go on, and indeed, it really can be a mean nothing sort of situation. Each time that these riders get out there and they lay it out there, you got to think that there's a couple of things that are happening, and one is just a competitive spirit to it. But secondly, you're seeing riders that are of equal kind of caliber in that front group like that, and that can make a difference in terms of how exciting the racing is when you put those kind of equal style riders together.
Yeah, there you go. A lot of them coming across the line right now. As you can see, the entire course, a lot of these athletes still held up. It is the pro last chance qualifier. These gentlemen are trying to get into the finals. That'll be our last race today. It is the 2017 Red Bull Rocks and Logs Endurocross, live from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And what a magnificent sight, the Wild Rose Motocross Park. As you can see, some spectacular views here today, and some spectacular spills and frustration, to say the least. That is number 8. That is Sam King, who's having a bit of an issue today on the course.
King, of course, is normally a trials rider, and he's struggling here trying to get that bike straightened out and get himself
pointing in the right direction.
Jeremy Bowes, actually, who's fighting it out there right now, and he's trying to get, as you can see him launch that thing up on top of there, loads the suspension up, uses the legs as well. That's trials riding at its very best. Maybe Stephen Ford will give us some lessons a little bit later on.
Absolutely. Let's not give him a Vespa, though. What a race this has been for the top 6 advancing, and it was a great start off the get-go. These gentlemen, some spills, some thrills, and some challenges, and there were some lead changes. Boy, there is some great action by that gentleman, Spencer Wilson, who was a little hesitant off the get-go, had some issues, some very difficult challenges, but in the end, he was able to pull it off. What a great ride for that gentleman, and some great challenges, too.
Well, Jeremy Bowes and Sam King, Luke Sador, Mike Aranda, and of course Wilton and Shane are going to be the ones that unofficially, of course, head off into the qualifier, at least into the final. That gives us our slate of riders, the top 3 from the first 2 heats and then the 6 from here. How they will end up picking up gate position is kind of interesting. You'd think it would be the guys who are the last chance qualifiers would end up at the back, but indeed they'll run hot laps a little bit later on here. And I mean hot laps, as in one lap as fast as you can go to try and get gate pick.
So now that these guys have gone through these different course and seen some lines and what to do and what not to do, hopefully they can translate into advancing into the finals here. Again, some struggles, some frustrations, but that's the nature of this beast. It is what it is, and you move on. You just got to move on.
You got to be able to do. Right now, we're going to be moving on here to experts, and this is interesting because you'll see guys who race not only pro but expert as well. That they'll be heading in here and looking to line up here as well. Stephen Ford will be in that group. You can see him there on the right side of your screen, the little glinting star off of his bike right there, number 63. As we go across the pack, there's Spencer Wilton back up in there, just having raced in that Pro LCQ. Now he's sitting right back up there, number 13, sitting in there. Sam King in there as well, number 12. And there you go. Spencer's got the umbrella. Well, I was going to say girl, but the cowboy hat just doesn't seem to work like that.
Give it to Mr. Ford. It looks like he needs a little protection for his melon as he puts on his helmet and looks to make sure everything's good. And he's thinking, hey, do I have air conditioning in this thing? There you go, buddy.
Come on now. He's got the best haircut of the bunch, just like you and I,
there
right?
There you go. Some great representation today and some great riders who know that they are up for a challenge. They're keeping their eye on this course, and for good reason they are, because you just never know when you can just get a little bit of extra watching the other guys in front of you and say, hey, I never thought about that angle. I might just try it next time.
And you know, that's a great camera shot right there, one that you don't see a lot, which is the idea of riders watching riders. And that turns out that strategy, the way the course works, rider styles, who would end up going around, all of those things can end up being that little bit of difference. At this stage, it's about 90% mental when it comes down to being able to win here. We'll see how it goes.
All right, the strategy for a lot of these folks is to stay cool, and maybe that's the strategy of a lot of these spectators as well. A full throng of spectators, and why not, on a spectacular day here in Calgary, watching the Red Bull Rocks and Logs. It has been a lot of fun, and there is so much more great racing for you as we get underway with the next competition. But this is the last LCQ that we saw a few moments ago with the Red Bull Rocks and Logs.
Great work here from Rider Media to be able to grab some of these superb shots. As you can see, the one thing that you do experience so well on the screen is being able to see those insider views, not only of the riders like the two Hart brothers and Redmond having a look here, but seeing shots like that, slow motion. You see how the riders are able to work it there, and Shane almost throwing the bike away on that shot.
Expert class is coming up. The difference between expert class and professional class, Doug?
Well, the expert side of things is kind of the step below, if you will.
Right.
In other words, that you haven't necessarily qualified for pro, and as an expert, the idea is that you're not eligible if you haven't previously qualified as a pro. So with these guys being able to do this, they have an advanced level of skill, but they're not quite at that stage, or they maybe aren't ready to make that change. You'll also notice that a number of the riders here are racing not only pro class here at Rocks and Logs, but also expert class. So the idea being is that you have some different textures, if you will, in terms of skill level, but the pro class is certainly that one where they're at the very top of the game. The expert class is kind of the step into that, if you wanted to look at it like that.
All right, well, let's talk about that expert class here. We have Mr. Ninja in there, Niehaus is in there, with Stephen Ford we saw earlier, Joshua Bridge, we've got Sam King, Spencer Wilton, some of these names you just saw a few moments ago. Who do we like here? Clint Bowes, I mean, there's another great name.
We saw Kevin Dupree, we saw him earlier today. One of the guys I want to point out, who I think is just awesome, is Kevin Peltier, number 28. This guy is the hardest working guy on this track. The other day I was out here watching him in a skid steer. He's a master of it, owns a landscaping business, and he looked like a bandit. He had like this mask over top of his face with the dust out there. Worked like dawn till dusk out there on the track. You got to like that. Now, if there's a guy who knows the track really well, it would be him. He's a master at that skid steer, but he's also one of the great guys of the bunch, and we look forward to seeing him go out there and do well. He operates Mountain Pearl Landscaping with his wife, and he was the guy who was contracted to build the track. So he's one that he may not be right up there in the top, but he's one of the guys that I just like to watch. Luke Sador is in here as well. A couple of others that we should look at is Jack Sawatsky is in this group as well, number 54. Quinn McCullough rounds out our top ones here. I got to think that Stephen Ford would have an opportunity here to be able to win, but I think it'll be a case of whoever can survive through the start, and of course be able to challenge the track throughout it and not run into those slower riders that causes the changes that we saw earlier.
You're watching some highlights of earlier action. Number 63 that you mentioned, Stephen Ford, we're going to see him in action in just a few moments in the expert class. One of the things that we found through the Red Bull Rocks and Logs course is that a lot of these athletes, they understand exactly the line that they want. As you mentioned, Doug, you add to it more riders. So you may not necessarily do what you want to do. The key for a lot of these athletes, especially the ones who finished in the top 3 of each of their races or qualifying races, is to get an early lead. And once you get that early lead, you got nobody in front of you, you can do exactly what you want, hold the line that you exactly want. Where it gets a bit of a challenge is when these guys start butting up to somebody and they say, nuts, I've got to change my strategy.
That's right, and in an expert class, you can run into that more so, where you'll end up running up into those slower riders, and that, of course, can make the big difference in terms of what happens, as we've seen in a number of the heats earlier. When you come up into those riders, that changes the strategy. It's interesting that a lot of times at Endurocross, it would be the weather that could make the difference, the wind or the rain or whatever. And here, it happens to be the riders that become the obstacle that is the variable to many of these other riders who are early leaders.
12 gentlemen are in the expert class, 6 in front, 6 behind. The reason why? Now, there's only so much room under the Red Bull arch, but we want to give it a little more of a challenge. The beginning beginning of this race has always seemed to have been a key. Yes, there's a 6-foot drop, but you think about a funnel. When you start wide, and then you got to narrow yourself inside to get out of that funnel. But we've actually added, or Shane Cuthbertson, the course designer, has added a little bit of a challenge. The challenge being something called the wagon wheel, and it's just like it sounds. You have to go either on the inside line, on the outside line, or maybe right up the middle, depending where all of these guys are beside you. As you can see, they're all geared up. They don't mind doing a little rubbing. They understand how this game is done.
That's right, and especially in that first turn, you're going to see that big time, of course. The idea being in that strategy of that is, do you end up trying to jam your way through there and get out in front? That's what we've seen so far. There might also be a strategy of hanging in there and then passing with some speed as you get a clear shot through there. We'll see if that works out as well.
Brilliant shot from one of our camera folks. This is the start of the expert class. 30 seconds is less than that. A 5-second cue is coming up. These guys know it. They're ready. They've got to find that line that they've been talking about it. There they are, all the big names, all the big colors. These guys want it, and off they go off the 6-foot jump. And here we go.
Wagon wheel compressing them now into that corner as they try to keep everybody upright. You can see that trials style there.
Oh, there's a jam in there.
Throwing that in front of that bike around, and the trials guy is Sam King, who ended up lifting that bike up and throwing it across in front. King ends up leading the experts.
We've already seen a couple of these riders down, but they're back up again. This race is not over. In the expert class, 4 laps. 4 laps. Who will take it? Again, there's the separation. A great shot from one of our camera vantage points up the scissor lift. And now these guys over the rocks, through the jail area, and some of their pegs may get caught up here.
Yeah, you can see the experts, of course, taking the pro lines that we've talked about down through jail and up through that splatter. Number 12 should be able to feel that that's pretty easy going up and down the splatters. And the interesting thing with him is that last year he ended up riding his trials bike out here. But this course set up with that combination of motocross speed along with the trials challenges has had him graduate, if we want to call it that, up into a big Yamaha.
Sam King taking the early lead halfway through the course. 4 laps have to happen here. He goes through a section that's pretty difficult, and as you can see, loses it off his bike, and it looks like he's about to give up the lead, and he does, to Mr. Ford.
Well, that's ironic that it's Stephen Ford who comes through.
Oh, and he's down!
And he goes down in the matrix.
Wow! Come on, Stephen, you knew this area, pal. This is where they're being held up. These guys, maybe a day full of racing, are showing their exhaustion as number 10 takes the lead. What a move by Kevin Dupuis.
Dupuis has got to be feeling his oats right now, having won a class already. But again, opportunity, as we saw it there. The course coming up to be a big star, grabbing and throwing down riders and giving Dupuis a chance to be able to get out in front over top of Storm Mountain, down that back straightaway into that sand turn that you lose sight of right there. They're great shot right there, because that sand is very deep in there, as you can see him kicking up the rooster tail behind him.
Yeah, you can see the ruts that are being formed, and that gentleman, Mr. Dupuis, just showing us how it's done here as he come around to the first lap. There are 3 more remaining. This is the first of 4, and that gentleman, number 10, is your current leader, Mr. Dupuis. That is Kevin Dupuis.
Kevin Dupuis had finished up second in this class last year at Rocks and Logs. I know he wanted to be firsty for sure. A great shot of an enduro bike there, that Husqvarna that he's on, with the protection across his hands. That's a classic Endurocross stuff. Keep branches and rocks and dirt and so on and so forth off of those hands, and that gives you kind of that sense of the Husqvarna dirt bike for Endurocross with Kevin Dupuis.
There is no celebration if you're in second spot. This is the final, the expert final. Kevin Dupuis knows it as he's trying to hold on and get himself up over those logs. He does it nicely as he makes a hard left-hand turn into an area that a lot of these riders are very, very cautious with.
And look who is coming up behind him there, the man all in red. That's Spencer Wilton, looking to try and close the gap here. And you can see him kind of glancing every so often over his shoulder.
By the last count, we've got about a 6-second separation. There you get a great shot of it. There's Dupuis on your left, and there was Wilton on your right-hand side as they go by a section. It's the beer garden section. Look at those folks. They're having a great time, and why not? Some fantastic racing. Oh, almost goes over, but he held on. Mr. Kevin Dupuis. Oh, and he's still struggling. Mr. Wilton is right behind him. There he is in the red, trying to overtake him. He's got a chance right now. Can he do it?
Oh, man, this is the
the Pro Matrix, and you can see why it's just set up exactly that way. It bites those tires, holds that bike, and Wilton ends up coming out of there exhausted as he almost drops the bike down into the turn.
So many motorcycle casualties as you watch this race, but there he goes. He's coming up on the second of 4 laps. This is the final. Kevin Dupuis currently in first spot, but close behind is Mr. Wilton. There is lap number 2 complete. He's got 2 more to go. The separation has grown.
Dupuis, of course, has worked at it so hard. In 2015, he was an amateur, and it gives you a sense of how he has graduated up here now into the expert class. He came in second in the class last year, now looking to dominate it here, and he is doing exactly that as we head into the second half of this race.
Doug, it's so much easier when you're the only guy in front of you. You don't have to worry about anything. And there's the separation. There's Dupuis. Wilton is about 7 seconds by our count behind him. Still, there's a chance to catch up to him. We've seen here, too, if one of these athletes gets hung up on a rock or maybe a log, that gives the competitor behind you an opportunity. This jail area has tied up a few folks. Let's see how Kevin does it through it.
Dupuis gave you a great example of how that double rock pile coming down into the jailbreak. He came up on top of there, lifted that front wheel up over that first log, and literally picked his line to go right through there. Interesting as well that when you get to that splatter wall, there's a couple of choices as well. An outside line, which means you got a little space to load up the suspension, or an inside line with a rock that can give you additional traction like a kicker. He's picking the lines, and he saw all of that coming up over top of that log and seeing ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Some great work by that gentleman, but he's only halfway through. Oh, and he loses it again in the same spot in his last lap. He obviously did not learn from it. Kevin Dupuis is your current leader, but that slowdown is going to give an opportunity for Mr. Wilton, who is right on his tail.
You know, that Pro Matrix, it's deceiving. It looks just like a bunch of logs laid down and, you know, a triple, double, triple. But the spacing of those logs and the height of those logs are what are really the key, a reason why it's called that Pro Matrix, because that matrix means that you've got to figure out how you're going to get through there, and then you can see if you don't carry the momentum, it comes up and stops.
Exhaustion is playing a role right now for that gentleman and for the rest of the pack. Mr. Dupuis, Kevin Dupuis has 1 lap remaining. He's on his final lap through an area that he doesn't have to worry about. There is nobody around him. That is to his advantage, and so far he handles that wagon wheel great. But again, we saw Doug through that pond area. That's where he struggles. Mr. Wilton has a chance to catch up to him through the wood pile like butter.
Dupuis goes through there great. Interesting choice that he uses the outside foot, like we saw Redmond use it earlier, and so on and so forth on the log on the outside. If you watch Stephen Ford, he uses the inside foot, which is an interesting choice. But you can see here, all he's got to do, Dupuis, has just got to keep the things rolling forward here, picking his lines, keeping the rubber side down and the helmet side up.
There's more of a separation now between Dupuis and Spencer Wilton, but Wilton is still in the running. Don't give up on this one. There's Wilton right in the background in the red. You can just see him just passing by. The beauty of this course, it zigzags. It allows these other riders to realize where they are in relation to the other racers. Now, we talked about it in the last couple of laps. This is an area that Kevin Dupuis has been struggling with. How will he manage this time with exhaustion, Doug?
Well, he comes out of 40's nightmare and into the place that has cost him a crazy bunch of nightmares here, which is this matrix. You can see him trying to carry that rhythm through there.
And the third time.
It holds him up again. Again, that rhythm and the spacing of those logs make that such a challenge. You know, it's great when you see kids who say, I want to come and learn how to do this. They can come out to Wild Rose Motorcycle Park because this exists here the whole time. Or you go lay down some logs out in the woods and away you go.
Final lap for this gentleman currently in the lead. It's Kevin Dupuis, looks over his shoulder, sees his competitor down over his left-hand shoulder. He knows he's got it. The last few seconds, here he comes. Kevin Dupuis, your expert final winner. What a great showing on this guy's part. Wow. Didn't have the early lead. It was taken over, but then he regained his lead. What an effort by Kevin Dupuis, your winner, the expert final class here at Wild Rose Motocross Park. It's the 2017 Rocks and Logs Endurocross from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. As we can see in the foreground, in the background rather, there is Spencer Wilton, who is just coming around now. He is your second place finisher. Luke Sidor right behind him. What a close race between second and third. What an effort by all of these gentlemen. Boy, you can tell that they are exhausted, but what an effort that they put together here today. A fantastic showing here at the 2017 Red Bull Rocks and Logs Endurocross. What a lot of fun that was, no doubt. Exhaustion on the faces of these gentlemen, and what a stretch they had. Some challenges earlier for some of these races, slowing down some of the pack, but it's the separation of the wheat from the chaff. Once you've got the guys who know what they're doing, if you got nobody in front of you, well, sometimes you have some luck, sometimes you don't, but this gentleman, luck played a part, but so did his challenge to himself to say that, yep, I'm going to attack this. I'm not going to get frustrated. And boy, did Kevin Dupuis ever challenge his course. And a fantastic job from that gentleman. Dupuis, Wilton, Sidor, Ford, Bose, Procchio, McCullough, Swatsky, the Ninja, and Joshua Bridge, Sam King, and Kevin Peltier round up the top 12 competitors in this expert class final. What a fantastic showing from that gentleman, number 10. And yes, he's there with him, Doug Denance.
What an incredible race this was. You came from the second row, managed to overcome all the obstacles except for that Pro Matrix. Talk a little bit about how that challenged you each and every lap.
Well, I didn't find a good rhythm in it yet. The last 3 logs been pretty tough, and I think the last 2 laps I was starting to get tired and making more mistake into it and just make it harder.
We were talking about exhaustion playing a role, but now you have done it, right? You are there. You are ready to go. You've been on the podium here a couple of times. You got to feel like this has been a spectacular day at 2017 Red Bull Rocks and Logs.
Sure is. Yesterday was a pretty tough day for me. Some bad start, get rode over by bikes. But today been a really good day, so pretty happy.
Let's make sure we say thanks to the folks that made it possible for you to move up from amateur to expert in just a couple of years. Came in second last year and number 1 this year.
Yeah, Dean Thompson been really good to me. Lots of help. And Jenny, my wife.
All right, there you got it. Phoenix, back to you.
Mud on his jersey, but a lot of great feeling for this race for that gentleman. Kevin Dupuis from Quebec now calls Calgary home. Very familiar with this course. 2015, he placed 3rd in the RNL Amateur. Number 1 today. The Red Bull Rocks and Logs Endurocross, the expert division, as we have a lot of spectators looking on today, enjoying a spectacular day here in Calgary. The good news is we ain't done. Yeah, we got a lot more racing ahead of you, including the ladies finals, the pro finals, but up next, this is called the Pro Hot Laps. It's 1 lap. The top 6 determine the gate position. 1 lap, all out, pushing it for as much as they can as the skyline of Calgary is in your backdrop. What a beautiful sight and what a beautiful location to be here. Doug, when you were chatting with him, we were just chatting about all the mud that he had on his face. Actually, as we look at the course, it looks like it's dry, but there are certain sections of this course that do kick up that little bit of mud. It's a little slick in some areas.
Well, we were talking about the waterfall, and of course the idea behind that, it looks like, wow, it's just a pond sitting up on top of a bunch of rocks. But of course, as the riders move through there, it pushes water down. And of course, then the water gets into the mud gets on the rider, and so on and so forth. So the idea being is that track does indeed change. The thing that I like about the clever side of the way that they've done this is with, and this is Shane Cuthbertson's genius, is using the wood chips out there, which help to maintain the entire track. And then in the sections that you want to have challenge, challenges, i.e. like the waterfall, that you're able to do that, and you've got the different textures of that track all the way through.
Pro Hot Laps is coming up next. What we're going to do, it looks like we're dividing it into 2 heats. We'll have 6 at the start and 6 at the back end, and we have 1 lap for these riders. Here they are, number 1, number 3, number 5. That is Colby Haker, Kyle Redmond, Tristan Hart, Wyatt Hart. Yep, they're brothers. A gentleman we just saw a few moments ago, Kevin Dupuis, and even Clint Bowes. We have a lot of great talent here, and these guys, Doug, know how to attack this course.
Well, and this is a real key point, because you've seen how, and you mentioned it earlier, that when you're able to come out of that start in a whole shot position, you seem to be in a much better place to be able to try and win. Well, this is all about gate pick, finding the spot in that lineup of where you're going to be on that gate. Haker, you'd think, would be able to dominate here in terms of timing. But we also saw a guy like Kevin Dupuis, who's got to be breathing pretty hard right now.
Well, you saw him. Well, tell me about it. Did he look exhausted to you?
He even said that the fatigue had begun to set in. And so here now he's got to come back out here and literally run the best time of the day for him to be able to get a great gate pick. Because indeed, as we've seen, I might have argued this case before, looking at how incredibly tough this track was, but it seems to me that you were right, that if you come out of that start and you're in the 1, 2, 3 position, you have a much better chance of being able to be on the podium, and that indeed may come down to gate pick, which is why these hot laps are so important.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these gentlemen right now have that in mind. Get that early lead. As much as you want to open up the throttle off the get-go, you've got to realize it's a hard, sharp right-hand turn through an area called the wagon wheel. What makes it so challenging is that it not only is it a funnel for all these guys, but now you either have to take a far outside line, or if you take a tight insert line, the challenge is different for each of those lines that you take. These guys realize it. They've been on the course a few times. Now again, it all depends on how close you are. Are you within elbow of each other that you may have to be do a little jostling? We haven't seen too much of that, because for the most part, a lot of these riders have taken the early leads. And when you've got that separation, again, it gives you time to take a deep breath and realize, okay, what line do I want to take? Ideally, you want to go this way, but again, if you're side by side a couple of these guys, you just got to go whatever's presented in front of you. And a lot of these gentlemen realize it.
That's right. They got to pick a line and an alternative, and sometimes even a second alternative as well. The wild card always is the other riders. So with this hot lap right now, there's a couple of different strategies in mind. One is to go out there and go full bore, get the great gate pick. The second thought is to hold back just a little bit, because remember, every other rider's out there looking. You say, maybe I'll take the second gate position instead of my first choice, but the idea being is that the other rider, like a poker game, goes, oh, well, that's everything he's got. He's gone out there and gone as hard as he can in a hot lap. Well, maybe there's still a little bit extra in the tank. I don't know if Kevin Dupuis is going to have that, but we'll see.
There seems to be two heats of 6, and we are waiting the start of this race. I'm curious if some of these bikers, or riders rather, have more than one bike to their disposal. So we saw Kevin Dupuis a few moments ago. He's now going to be racing in this race. Will he have a secondary bike just in case?
Well, he would have one in the pits area, no doubt, from the point of view of if his main bike didn't work out. But he's got to use that one. He's going to use that one that he's typically ridden on here so far. They're going to just make sure that, remember, enduro oftentimes is so long that they end up having these motorcycles designed to be able to take the heat and the stress that they put it on. Interesting with 6 across here, 30-second board up. All that matters here is the fastest and hottest time, and that should be just a little over a minute and a half if our previous heats are any indication.
You're
here
right.
we go.
And actually, the last heat or the last race that we saw, we have a false start here.
No, they're going to go each out like this, and they'll go in a staggered position. And remember, the transponder is looking at that to try and pick up the time. He's got nothing else to stop him. So as I say, these should be the fastest lap times of the day, because the one variable you don't have is the other rider.
Mr. Bose is on the course right now. This is Clint Bose, number 7. And last time that I saw, the fastest time that was done was about a minute 36, somewhere in that range. We'll see what his time is.
Well, and he should be that much faster here because, as they say, no other riders in that case. The strategy, again, is do I lay down the fastest time? Do I get the best gate pick? I think that from what you have said so far and what we've seen so far, that indeed you want to be 1, 2, or 3 coming out of that first turn if anything is equal here in terms of what we've seen so far.
So the difference between attacking this course with a bunch of other riders by your side is saying to yourself, okay, now I can take a few extra risks, because if I take them, then I'm not worried about somebody beside me who might just throw me off my game somewhat. So that's what this gentleman is doing right now. It is the first of 6 riders. Clint Bose is on course.
Into the Pro Matrix now, and this is that place where you want to have the rhythm, and again, you see those large logs and the spacing between them, causing him some struggles to get through there. Ends up standing that bike up in a wheelie position, pirouettes it around. That's not going to help his time any, but it sure looks impressive.
Well, these guys are nothing but talented, that's for darn sure. You know, to see this and see how easy they make it through this course, that's one thing. To see them actually go against other competitors, that's another thing. To do it by yourself, boy, that's a whole different ball game. And here we go with the first time coming up for Clint Bose. We'll have it for you in just a few moments as he completes this course and we get ready for our second competitor.
Remember, the transponders on the second side of the doubles on the steps down from that finish line. So we'll look at the time there, and it has come in, I believe,
152.772. That's the time to beat.
Hey, Clint, I got news for you. You're the new leader in hot lap.
Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't mind that at all.
Just bask in the moment, in the glory for the moment.
All right, we see number 10, Kevin Dupuis, on your far left-hand side of the screen. That gentleman has been resting, no doubt about it. He's probably getting a lot of fluids in him, and maybe a few Red Bulls just to keep him motivated, and he is the next on course.
Dupree again coming from that amateur class only a couple of years ago, having just raced and won expert, which was certainly a goal for him, having finished second in that class last year. Here he's looking to move up in terms of not only his racing but his status to move up there into the pro division. You can see again the rhythm of this much different beast than what he struggled with, and we just saw Bo struggle with it as well, which is that Pro Matrix in that second pro line a little bit later in the course.
Yeah, that's what they're holding on to right now. He's taking on the inside line, gain some time here. The time of 152.772 is the time he's trying to beat. He got held up a little bit there.
He came up on top of that splatter, and again, this is, you know, a trial rider tends to load that and has a rhythm to bring that top front end up and splatters the skid underneath the bike, skid plate up on top of that and slides over the top. He came up a little high, caught the back wheel on that, which caused him to have to stop. So the trial riding skill is the key there. And now he's hung up here in the nightmare that Fordy designed.
Yeah, it's something very well named as well. Here he is, Mr. Kevin Dupuis, trying and again stalling in the section that we saw in the last race. He's getting held up and no doubt frustrated through this area.
That matrix is a classic obstacle in Endurocross. It is, you know, one of the sort of foundational obstacles in this. And what I think was awesome here from Shane Cuthbertson was to show the amateur matrix where they go over the top, the logs aren't as big, they're spaced out a little differently, and then into that pro matrix, which changes everything in terms of the distance between the logs and the size of them. And well, we'll see how he does here in terms of time.
Here he comes across the finish line right there, and the time to beat is 152.472. He gets 152.472. Wow, just beats him out.
Well, I don't think my math skills are good enough to get that fractional. I'm glad our guys like Jerome and so on have got the transponders out there to be able to measure that here. Wyatt Hart is on the line here right now. Wyatt getting things going here. The wild man himself. Oh, he's not all that wild, but he's a fun guy to be around.
So close, a difference of .300. Kevin Dupuis has your lead right now, and here we go.
Wyatt Hart. These guys, both of the Hart brothers had a lot of experience going down to the United States and learning the craft, as it were, in the U.S. and they had spent some time in places like Las Vegas and so on and so forth. And a lot of the attention falls on Tristan these days. But I don't like to count out wide. He's kind of a longer, taller guy, naturally gifted athlete. And so we'll see how he does through this time here. A lot of the pressure that would normally be on him is on his brother. So maybe that relaxed nature, which is his nature, can help out here.
We saw him earlier standing with his brother overlooking the course and watching some of the earlier riders. No doubt he's probably gotten a little bit of advice to himself, thinking, this is maybe the way I want to go. The time to beat is 1:52.472. Again, a .300 separation from Dupuis and from Bose. This gentleman trying to beat it. This is the hot laps, the pro hot laps that you're looking at right now as he comes to the conclusion of his lap. Man, he is doing great.
Started to learn to ride at the age of 3 years old. If you're familiar with Invermere, British Columbia, in the hills and the mountains in there, of course, he'd had a lot of experience working the different types of sections that you see here. We'll see how he does from a time point of view.
And here he comes across the finish line, and we will find out his time. It's 1:30.009. Are you kidding me?
Well, he certainly got through there, and you saw that matrix, which has caused some problems in the past, or the splatter walls. He moved through there fairly smoothly. Like I said, a naturally gifted athlete. He seems effortless when he's out there.
And it showed right there. Okay, we have 3 more remaining in this first heat. We have 2 heats, and this is competitor number 4. His brother, Tristan Hart, is now on course.
Tristan, the younger up in here, he's 20 years old. Wyatt's 23. Both of them coming from Invermere and having learned to ride together. He started to ride a little bit later. He was like 5 years old when he jumped up there, but he broke his leg early on and hadn't got back until he was 13 years old. Maybe that perspective back just a little bit helped him to be able to keep the mental part of the game in here. He is one of the top riders in the world.
You ask yourself, how much do you love the sport, especially when you had an injury, and this gentleman knows exactly how much he loves it. He's out on the course right now. He's trying to beat his brother's time of 1:30.009, thrown down, slapped down big time by his brother Wyatt Hart. So far, not doing too bad through this course.
You can see how smooth he rides through here. He had that motocross background. And again, one of the things with motocross is to be able to have the speed to go through whoops. Well, going through these obstacles here, these rocks and logs with a little bit of momentum, helps to make it smoother. The gyroscopic action of the motorcycle at speed wants it to stand up a little bit taller. And you're seeing it here with Tristan doing just that as he comes into the Storm Mountain area here, and looks like he may have a very good time out of this.
And we'll have that time for you in a few moments. It's Tristan Hart right now trying to beat a time of 1:30.009. He's on pace of doing that as he comes around the final stretch. We'll have his time for you as he comes across the finish line. And his time, get this, 1:27.890. He did it.
You know, he finished 4th in Rocks and Logs in Expert last year. And, you can see here by a time of, 1:27 and change that he very likely may be a top 3 this year. Maybe podium, and who knows? I mean, any kind of changes with these tracks, the water, and so on and so forth, or the other riders could make the difference. He just might be the guy on the tall podium.
Well, speaking of the guy, he's trying to be the guy. Kyle Redmond now on course. There's only 2 more remaining in this first heat. The inside line of the wagon wheel, something that the other 2 have not done. He realizes if he has to beat a time of 1:27, man, is he flying through this course, he's got to do it. He's got to take the risk. With risks, there is results, and hopefully it's the results he's looking for. Man, he's just taking it over that berm. Wow.
He is a hard enduro specialist. Was in Erzberg last weekend in Austria, and you'd think that the time change and the altitude change and all that sort of thing coming from California and then to Calgary, that altitude change might make him feel a little bit more fatigued, but it doesn't look like it's slowing him down. It looks like it's speeding him up.
Yeah, Doug, tell that to his bike. His bike is the one that's leading him right now and leading the charge big time. What an effort by that gentleman. Competitor number 3, Kyle Redmond on course. He's looking to beat 1:27.890. That time, by the way, 1:27, that is unbelievable. Can he do it? Man, what a pace. He cannot slow down, and so far through that matrix section. section. Wow.
That matrix had caused some struggles. You saw with Dupuis and so on. Redmond coming through there, as you called it, like a knife through butter, a hot knife through butter, as he moves through there very well. This may be a bit of mental strategy as well to say, look at me, look at how hot, look at how fast, you got to beat me.
Well, there's the finish line, and look at this time. 124.471. That is your current leader. Wow, what an effort by Kyle Redmond.
Well, we do have the #1 plate online there with one of our sponsors, GoPro, up on top of his head there. He'll probably review that once he has a look at this hot lap here. I think that if anything, you will see Colton want to lay down the fastest time. He will want the best gate position, there's no doubt.
Pops a wheelie, gives a little bit of something as he comes across this wagon wheel. Now, we saw in the earlier round, it was the young man, Kyle Redmond, who took an inside line. He takes an outside line, and here he goes, aggressive to this course. #1, Colton Haker is on the course now, and aggressively going through this course. He knows it. A time of 1:24 is virtually impossible to beat, but we have seen this gentleman race today, and he is some kind of racer.
You know, we saw those times of a minute and a half during the races, and you would think that they'll be a little faster here without any impediments, like other riders being able to pick whatever line they want. You got to love his story, having been a motocross rider, got hurt. Parents said, nope, you're not going to race anymore. Put him on a trials bike, and combining the two together have created literally the biggest superstar in the sport right now. The two-time winner of 2016, 2017 in the U.S., the AMA Endurocross, as the FIM champion as well. You know, you think that, but he got hung up in the matrix, and that may make a difference right there in his time. That has got to change things because Redmond was perfect through it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Oh, and then he's stuck up again, and he realizes, nuts, I may not be able to get that first spot. Stuck up a third time. Frustration for this gentleman, but again, this is what makes the pros and separates the pros from the amateurs. How much do you have in you to just keep on going? And for this gentleman, he knows, Colton Haker, he may be out of the running, but we'll see his time in a second.
Well, it'll certainly put him in a more difficult gate position, but it was almost like a little clinic there of him using the body to load the suspension to be able to roll it back through there. The one thing that Haker is good at doing is being able to come back from adversity. We've seen it from his motocross to trials career, and we'll see it again happen here.
All right, his time is 143.122. 143.122, and there you have the first 6 of your pro hot laps. We have another 6. These are your final 6 that we're going to take a look at. Again, we are looking at the top 6 determining their gate position. That's the whole idea behind all of this, and what a race for those guys it was a few moments ago. As we're actually going to have the pro laps. We're going to actually, by the looks of it, we have the women who are now taking center stage.
If I'm not mistaken, out of that hot lap situation, the idea was those are the front line guys. So that'll tell us where they end up sitting on the gate. The other guys have to line up in the back. So, of course, that means that, and that means that Haker will not get that great gate position, and Kyle Redmond will. And this is an interesting matchup because you've got a 2014 Rocks and Logs champion who had not been up here for the last little while, and now you've got the #1 guy who doesn't have the great gate position. Coming back to your observations earlier, Phoenix, you've got to be in that top 1, 2, or 3 coming out of that first turn, and yet with the pros from adversity, one of the things that Shane Cuthbertson said to me was he's raced against Haker, and Haker will talk out loud to himself to talk himself through tough situations. So I can imagine there's quite a conversation going on in Haker's head right now.
No question.
In the pits area, as he knows he's got to face off against Redmond with a great gate position in our final.
124.471 was the fastest time laid down by Kyle Redmond. Quite a showing by that gentleman. It'll be interesting to see the pro finals, which is coming up right after the ladies finals. We have a lineup for you that'll make you go, wow. Some of the best, Doug, of the best are right here today for the 2017 Red Bull Rocks and Logs Endurocross from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and there they are.
We've got a story here. Almost everywhere you look on this line with these ladies is an amazing story. Heather Wall, as an example, finished up third. She ride a trials bike last year.
Wow.
You know, like, and she's riding a trials bike again this year. Melissa Harton, number 49, raced in virtually every category, ended up beating number 48, Tara Geiger, who's a Red Bull athlete from California. That's an interesting matchup. That's not something that Tara Geiger is very used to, is having somebody be able to beat her.
Competition, you say?
Not competition, but not being on the top of the competition. And we have two girls who raced in the Western Canadian Motocross Championships for women yesterday, finished up 1 and 2 in the series. I'm talking about Shelby Turner and Lexi Pichu. They're here as well, number 46 and 42. They come into the race today. They're on the backside here, not even having a chance, other than a couple of practice laps, to even check out this new course. But I've worked with Lexi before. She's an amazing trials rider, a wonderful champion, trains a lot in the United States. Shelby Turner, as young as she is, has laid down a legacy that is almost unbelievable in Canadian women's racing. So we've got stories everywhere you look out here on this line here right now as we get set with what very likely could be one of the most exciting races of the day, and that is the ladies' final.
Doug, very encouraged by the amount of sponsorship you see on the jerseys of these athletes, knowing that this sport is alive and well. Don't kid yourself, these ladies are tough. They are waiting for this race. They want it bad. It's the ladies' finals. They've got less than 30 seconds to go. This is going to be something. Again, they start nice and wide and they come nice and tight inside this wagon wheel. The start, the results of the race could be within the first 10 seconds. Here they go. What a jump.
What a start right there for number 43, Melanie Bauman. Wow, that was an incredible start. Almost it looked almost like a false start, how fast she got out of there, but there's no flags, and she leads. And this is what we talked about, the idea of being out in front right when you get started. But there goes Tara Geiger.
Right behind is Harton. Melissa Harton. Look how close this is. 1, 2, 3. They're in your screen right now. It is a tight race. These ladies are racing for 3 laps, 3 times around the course, and the winner will be announced in a second. Is it that young lady? That is number 48, Tara Geiger, in the lead over a section that has been not too much of a challenge for some of these athletes. We're to see how she does as she rounds the corner and into another section here that is a bit of a challenge.
Tara Geiger came out very strong as she came out of there. But Bauman was right in there as well, and it'll be interesting to see whether she can end up being able to beat her here again. Shelby Turner right in there as well. You can see her there. Oh, and she goes down into 40's Nightmare.
Oh, and so does her competitor, side by side. Make it 3 for 3. We're going to find out. Trying to make her way through. Melissa Harton says, look, give me some room, guys.
Melissa Harton should know that. She knows Stephen Ford very well, but she ends up getting stopped in the front side there, and Shelby Turner comes out and grabs a hold of the lead now ahead of Geiger. Boy, this is going to be as competitive as it can be.
Yeah, just absolutely love it. This course is right ready for a great finish here. Here, what a tight, this is probably the tightest race on the inside line is that young lady. Wow, it just changes that quick. Tara Geiger is now in the early lead as she completes lap number 1 of 3.
Tara's background was a motocross racer, and you saw it there as she slingshots her way around in that berm turn and down that straightaway, giving that throttle lots of leeway. And that's it. He's opened up a bit of a lead for her as she heads into the first turn in lap number 2 of the wagon wheel.
6-second gap separates first and second. What a great shot from there. You can get an idea, but 6 seconds can be caught up real fast. It is Geiger. It is Turner. It's in the wood pit, the wood pile, right through it like it was nothing. Followed very closely. Look at these two, just fighting it out. Boy, we're up for a final here.
Tara Geiger out in front, that motocross background helping her out in the certain sections of this. But again, you can see now she's had to choose a different line through that rock because of the rider that was the new obstacle, if you will. Had to find a different way through there. That would indeed be a deal breaker in terms of you being able to stay out in front. The way it stacks up right now is Tara Geiger, the Red Bull athlete out of California, with Turner and Pichu 2 and 3, and they could end up closing this up here and making this a whole different race.
Are we surprised to see Geiger in the lead?
I'm not overly surprised to see that, to be honest. But what I am surprised with right now is that there isn't somebody tighter to her. And you know, she has. I wonder if yesterday it was getting used to the altitude and so on and so forth. And it's her first time here, but she's certainly showing us today what kind of a caliber of rider that she is.
Well, as you can see, she's passing it by a couple of other riders. So this young lady coming right into your living room is doing what exactly she wanted. She got the early lead. She's held on to the early lead. She's in lap number 2. It is 3 laps around this course to announce the ladies' final winner. And she got a little tied up there, but she gets herself out of it. It's still a close race between that young lady, number 48, Tara Geiger, and number 46, Shelby Turner.
Well, you know, Tara is showing you there the strength that she has, you know, lifting the front tire up, spinning the bike around like that. She's got a background as an athlete in a bunch of extreme sports, including surfing. So I figure she's got great balance out of the whole deal. And she's probably used to the water, too, with sharks in it, you know what I'm saying?
Or Vespas in the water. Geiger, Turner, 1 and 2, ladies final lap. This young lady has taken control of the lead. She has built her separation. You can see right now that even second place, not even in her sights. But as this course zigzags, she looks behind her. She can see number 2 is right there, but she's got some separation. That lady behind her, though, is in the lap behind her, but she's got a lot of space to do some things here, maybe not too many risks.
She came by Heather Wall right there. You saw Heather on the trials bike, and she now is, you know, certainly trying to make sure that she takes a little bit of caution here, because again, we've seen that track come up and bite you, slow you down. We've seen them come into areas like 40's Nightmare and so on. She's now got to pick a different line coming through the pond, and you can see how that slows her down a bit. But again, being cautious and being focused in terms of what she's doing, trying to bring momentum as she goes through the various sections.
Geiger, Turner, Harton, Pichu, Wall, Johnson, Devin Lamontagne. That is your current leader list. This is the final lap. She gets a little bit of a breather as she comes over that final section. Miss Geiger is on her way to a win.
Did you see her shake that hand out? When you think about the arm pump that's going on here to be able to struggle with the bikes, when you come up and talk to them a little bit, you get a sense of how that arm is just like rock solid when they come off of those bikes. It's an amazing sport in terms of that, and she's showing you here the kind of athlete that she is. She gets a little wave here and picks up the checkered flag.
This girl from California is really showing us how it's done, and what a great win for her. That is Tara Geiger from California. Boy, I tell you, Doug mentioned surfing. Yeah, she loves surfing, but I'll bet you she certainly loves the win today, the ladies' final. As we watch the remainder of the group coming through right now, this has definitely been a challenging course for a lot of these ladies. Early competition for Tara Geiger, but she showed her dominance. Geiger, Turner, Harton, it'll finish that way. This young lady, nothing to be disappointed about, but as you can see, the separation between first and second place, number 46 coming across right now, that is Shelby Turner. And here again is rounding out the crew of the top 3. That is Miss Harton. As we watch the final competitors, the ladies' finals, some getting held up, some getting laid down and wondering, how do I get out of this situation? What a great display of some incredible talent today. But it was the talent of Miss Geiger, number 48, Tara Geiger. This young lady, number 49, that's Melissa Hart, just getting held up there. What a struggle, but what an effort to see these great competitors today in the 2017 Red Bull Rocks and Logs, the Endurocross from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, getting the remaining stragglers coming across, and it was a race that was run right from the beginning, and that young lady, number 48, took the outside line and held on to take the win, and what a win for her at the Red Bull Rocks and Logs here, the Endurocross. A spectacular effort by some of these ladies, and some twists and turns and falls and a little frustration along the way, but what an effort by that young lady. Look at the height on some of these jumps. That's her taking the finish line, and a great win for her, number 48, Tara Geiger, coming across the finish line, and a lot to be happy with, a lot to be proud of. And I'll tell you, if she just keeps this up, there is a lady that you ought to keep your eye on. through the next couple of years. She is an amazing competitor, gives her hand wave, and what a great effort by her. Doug Denance is with Miss Geiger.
Oh, wait a minute here. I just got to get a little dirt off of her chin here. You look at the mud all over here. It looks like you were out there just giving it all. First time at Rocks and Logs, first time in front of the Calgary crowd, first time in the sunshine here. What's your impressions?
It was a lot of fun, really tough, and I'm really glad we only had to do 3 laps, but I was counting them down, especially while you're in the lead. It just seems like it'll never end, but no, all the track was really good, and I just made a few changes from yesterday because I couldn't put a lap together to save my life, and luckily I got 3 together today.
You know, I wondered if it might have been a little strategy, a little sandbag in there yesterday saying, listen, I'm beatable, and then today you were unbeatable.
Oh, sure, we'll go with that. But
there you go. Let's say thanks to the folks that have made it possible for you to be here.
Definitely want to thank Red Bull Canada for bringing me up here, and hopefully this isn't the last year I'll be up here. It's a lot of fun, and glad I made it up this year.
California girls right here in Calgary. Ladies and gentlemen, it is excitement galore with our women's champion. We'll be back with more, Phoenix.
Tara Geiger, number 48, and number 1 today, the ladies' finals. As we see the backdrop of Calgary here, and a great situation to be in. How about the men coming up? The pro finals. These guys have been battling it out all day. You're about to see that live, moments away from the 2017 Red Bull Rocks and Logs. The men are next. The pro finals are next. You want to see racers? You want to see excitement? There they are, lined up. Let's give you a lowdown on these incredible athletes, including Kyle Redmond, Tristan Hart, you've heard us call these names all day today, Wyatt Hart, Colton Haker, Kevin Dupuis, Clint Bowes, Philippe Shane, Spencer Wilton, Mike Aranda, Luke Sador, Sam King, and Jeremy Bowes. We got a couple of brothers in here, the Bowes brothers and the Hart brothers.
You know, it is a family affair here a lot of times, because when you look back in the pits, you'll see an awful lot of folks that are family, friends, and so on that make it all happen. It's kind of cool when you see the brothers out here. But the story that I think is right now is Kyle Redmond grabbing that great time.
Absolutely.
And Colton Haker not doing so, getting caught up in the matrix. Does that mean that the number 1 plate may not be as dominant here? We will see. But the difference is hot lap is one thing. Not as much pressure there. When you get into racing here and you've got all those other riders, all the pressure of the podium waiting for you, that may be the difference maker here. We'll see how Redmond responds to that pressure, and particularly how Colton Haker responds to that pressure.
Kyle Redmond in the middle of the pack. He's in an ideal situation. If he can take an early lead, we've seen it in countless races before. You take an early lead, you can find your line, get away from the pack. The separation will bode well for your situation. There's so much drama in this race today, but you want to see what pro athletes are all about? These guys have been fighting all day and throughout their entire career to get to this spot today. The 2017 Red Bull Rocks and Logs Endurocross from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We are live underneath the arch of Red Bull, and we are seconds away from a start that is going to be unbelievable. Hang on, 12 competitors. They want it, and they want it now.
5-second board is up, and here we go.
Gate is down, the city skyline in the backdrop. Look at these guys are on the first turn. Look at this. Oh, man.
Battling it out, but everybody playing it pretty careful through that. Remember, 10 laps is a big difference in 3, and Haker out in front with Redmond right there. 1 and 2. Tristan Hart finished up 3rd last time, now in 3rd place right now. 1 ahead of where he finished before in 4th last year.
Doug, you've got the best of the best on the course. These guys know how to make up time. They've seen this course a few times. They realize that this is where their line needs to be. There's nothing surprising any of these gentlemen. They just have to compete. They just have to do.
Brilliant bit of execution right there through that pro line. Coming up over top of the Rock Island down to the jail area. There's
horizontal or vertical logs. Haker picked his line and went through between those logs like there was nothing there at all. Look at the space that he's now put ahead of him in front of Red.
The second position, number 3, that is Kyle Redmond. We mentioned his time in that pro heat. He had the best time. So far, he is lagging behind, but this gentleman, number 1, Colton Haker, he knows what he knows exactly what he needs to do, but can he hold on? He's not even finished. Lap number 1. And again, a reminder of 10 laps.
10 laps, and Redmond knows it too. Redmond, of course, we wondered about how that foot would be handling things. You know, Sam King hung up in there right now on the Yamaha in the water as we look towards the leaders again. And Haker, you wonder what kind of conversation went on there. You know, you wonder what did he say to himself after that, you know, to keep himself going through there so smoothly. You saw him cut through that major pro matrix like it didn't even slow him up. I wonder, and I'm not saying I know this, but I wonder if Haker was using a little strategy there. Maybe in that hot lap he said, look, I'm going to be able to be up there in 1, 2, or 3 no matter where I start on that front gate. Maybe I'll just let those guys think that they have a chance to be able to catch up to me, and then here away he goes and takes off right out in front.
There's that mind game that you were talking about. The question is there enough gas in the tank? Is there enough in that tank? Not only in that machine, but in the minds of each of these racers. 10 laps, my friends, are a lot of laps. There's a lot of racing to be had here, but that guy seems to know exactly what he needs to do. He's got no one in front of him except a little water here and there and maybe somebody who he might be passing, but that is Colton Haker, your current leader, as he finishes lap number 1.
Let's have a look at the matrix here as he moves his way through 40's Nightmare and comes into that matrix area. Watch the matrix there because you see how smoothly he came through there? Earlier, when you saw him come into that second pro line, he got hung up there a little bit coming through the jail. And I wondered if maybe he was just losing that focus. But again, maybe it's this idea of the matrix was what beat him. Maybe that's what he was focused on there. And indeed, he came through there like there was nothing to it. I just wondered whether that would hang him up at all.
Finishing in his second lap, you know, we look at him specifically to see whether or not he's looking over his shoulder. He is so focused. The only thing in front of him is the course. He is not concerned about anybody behind him right now. Even as he takes a wheel around the wagon wheel area, he's not even looking over to his right side to see who is beside him. All he's focused on is the course in front of him. And wow, what an effort by this professional athlete attacking this course like it's nobody's business. That gentleman, the epitome of how to attack this course. What a rider in that gentleman, Colton Haker.
You know, if you have a chance, you got to look up Colton Haker online. He does these amazing video blogs. He wanted to be a viral sensation, and not so much because of the idea of ego, but because of being close to his fans. He knows that those fans make a difference in terms of that. And he's a guy who just likes to have a lot of fun. He goes out there, plays a little basketball, does a little wake surfing and so on. But I think it's great the way he makes these videos, not just like letting the GoPro and just letting it go. I know he's picking up footage here as he gets hung up there just a moment. But he'll put these up and make them into videos that people are entertained by, in the same way that we're entertained by watching him execute here.
The true test of a professional is how do you get out of a situation that is a difficult one. We saw him hung up just a few moments ago, but now that you take a look at him, you think, man, he didn't even think about it. He said, oh, you know, just dust off my shoulder, move on. I've got a course to attack here. Again, not even looking behind him or beside him. His focus has been from the start, Doug, straight in front of him. He is so focused as he completes another lap. 3 down, 7 more to go. Can he hold on? Mr. Haker in the lead on lap number 4.
Haker, again, using both types of the riding that he has excelled at. Motocross riding, you see him stand up tall right there in a trials type position. Again, here, using that foot, dabbing it down, as they call it in trials, and then using kind of a motocross style to come through this amateur matrix like whoops in a motocross race. It's amazing to watch him combine and switch back and forth with the skill set as he comes here and looks at the line to see if this is where he had a little problem before, comes down through there and picks that line absolutely smoothly. Probably his second choice in that line as he had to go around Mike Aranda, and now again, looking like he's just got all dialed in, super smooth.
Another story that we're following on the Hart brothers there, currently in third and fourth position. Wyatt and Tristan, a little bit of showmanship maybe for them at the dinner table, saying, yeah, I beat you. So there's a lot of stories going on here, but this big story right now is that gentleman. No surprise, actually. We saw him earlier in some of the races. It's Mr. Haker, who is currently in the lead and dominating his performance and getting more of a separation as he continues to make it through this course like he owns it, Doug.
You know, like when you look at Haker here, and you know we're focusing on him as you see him here, but you may have noticed some of the other riders. You know, he just goes by the guy all in red, Spencer Wilton, who had been at the very top of the game in earlier heats. He just went by Kevin Dupree, right? You know, who again just finished dominating on top of the podium. So it gives you a sense of how incredibly talented and skilled this guy is. When you're watching this guy, it's like seeing somebody from another planet. You know, like you get somebody out there riding like this, and you know you go out there and you check it out, and then you see Colton Haker or Kyle Redmond come out there and do what they do, and it just gives you a sense of how special these athletes are and how blessed in a lot of ways that we are to see them here. You know, come to a place like Canada, come to Canada's only urban endurocross, and see the biggest star in the world riding for you right there and putting on literally a visual clinic of what it's about to be an endurocross.
Let's get in the mind of Colton Haker. Here he has a lead of upwards of 10 seconds. Right now, he had a little bit of a frustration there, but he gets it all past him. So let's go in the mind of Colton Haker. He sees that he's got at least about a 10, if not 15-second separation. What is he thinking right now as he makes it through this pond area, which has been a challenge for a lot of these athletes today?
Well, I think it gives you an idea of where you look at where his head position is. He's looking right down at what's just in front of him. You know, if you look at where his head position is right there, it's a great shot of it. His goggles are pointing just ahead of his front fender. So in other words, he's really focused on that next moment, that next obstacle. He knows the course, he's walked the course, he's ridden the course. What he's really focused on is just that moment, just right there. And they say that a lot of times it's that ability to get that talk out of your head and be able to focus on that. If you look at him, he just never seems to look up much beyond what's right there in front of him. And to execute at that moment perfectly, that's what I think is going on in Colton Haker's head.
5 down, 5 to go. Colton Haker has a commanding lead, and he continues to dominate this course. At some point, he's probably thinking, hey, man, you know, this is a lot of fun. I'm enjoying this.
You
this
know,
is good.
I'm not sure. I mean, look at the concentration. You know, you see that there's no looking up, there's no looking around, not paying any attention to anything else but the moment that's right in front of him. And that, I think, is what makes a superstar athlete that special. You know, when you think about it, he's done all the time. He spent all the hours and hours and hours on the back of that bike. He spent the time in the gym, spent all of that time. And right now, the thing that I think is incredible when you watch this kind of athlete is he is absolutely right in the moment.
Dialed in.
Right at that second is all that matters to him. And that is an ability that separates the special superstar athlete from the rest of us. That ability to have that intense focus.
That's a great point. And when you look at some of the expert athletes, the intermediates, and even the beginners, and they want to know what is the separation between my level and the level of this guy. That's a great point, Doug, because it's one thing to attack the course, but it's another thing to say to yourself, I am focused, I am not frustrated if there's things that go awry, and I know that I've got something to take care of, and down he goes, something he didn't expect. Maybe he lost his focus, but he knows he's got a big lead. Let's see how a professional handles this.
Or the track comes back to meet you up, right? The track changes it there for that moment. The thing that is happening now is, at the end of the day, we're talking about the mental side, but the physical side will start to come up now. When you think 10 laps, you're halfway through this. The arm pump. When I get a chance to be able to talk to one of these athletes and you grab that arm, I was just talking to Tara Geiger, you grab that arm and you realize how solid it is from the elbow to the wrist, just pumped absolutely full of blood. That's got to be able to take its toll too. But I think the other side of it is, and when I come back to the mental point is, and you talked about having fun. I mean, think about that idea about being able to, and we often hear it, be able to live in the moment, to be able to truly live in the moment. And that's what Colton Haker needs to be able to do throughout this entire race, is just do that. Look at him, he's catching his breath here as he goes through the matrix here, kind of just for that moment, stops and grabs a little bit of a my breath because he's earned the right to be able to do that.
Well, I'm going to correct myself. We said 10 laps. It's actually 8 laps that they have to complete. 6 laps are completed. He is on number 7 right now. And again, he had some slip-ups there. I don't know if he's having some issues with his bike right now, Doug, but I find that he's battling through it. Again, as a professional, you realize you're going to have this. You're going to be passing some guys who you are lapping. You've got to be focused, not worried necessarily about the guy behind you, but you got to be focused. Now he's on top here. What is he waiting for? Is he waiting for the guy in front of him?
He's probably trying to just make sure he can get his breath in. I mean, after all, we're talking about him like he's some sort of machine, you know. But at the end of the day, he is a human being, and at the end of the day, there is a certain level of fatigue that begins to set in here. He's been very, very focused all the way through, and I think it's amazing how he's gone through that matrix, the one that caused him the problems. Each time he's gone through there as though that was the challenge for him. The personal challenge was to get through that matrix.
Okay, again, a correction, not 10 laps, but 8 laps. He is on lap number 7. Lap number 7 for that gentleman. Mr. Haker is making a name for himself. He's showing us how it's done. There he goes. One more lap complete. It looks like he should be in his final lap.
Well, I'm just happy to watch him out here to do this. I love the way he made that turn, that final turn, turn 10 there, right in front of the start gate, back into that straightaway. Again, like a motocrosser, digging down, throwing his body down, having tires bite into that berm. It's just amazing watching the skills, the tiny little skills all put together at one time with Colton Haker.
And just to give you an idea of how talented this guy is, we just saw him pass Spencer Wilton a few moments ago. Spencer Wilton, this guy is a rider. And for him, this guy, number 1, Colton Haker, to be passing him as if it was nothing. That says a lot about his skills.
And twice. That's 2 laps. 2 laps he's passed him by. I mean, that's, you know, and again, that's taken nothing away from Spencer Wilton. It just again shows you the kind of dominance that we're seeing here from the number 1 plate.
Haker, Redmond, Hart, the Hart brothers, Dupuis, Kevin Dupuis, who we've been mentioning all afternoon, Wilton, Aranda, Sidor, big names in motocross, big names in Endurocross, and they're here in front of you putting on a display. This gentleman is putting on a show right in front of the beer gardens, taking a moment, maybe reaching over for a little wobbly pop, who knows, and just pushing a little too much. A little cockiness, do you think?
No, I don't know about that. I wonder if maybe it was just a little loss of focus. You know, he was maybe just a little fatigued, trying to catch his breath right there, and then away went that bike out from underneath him.
What an effort. And we see number 3, this is Redmond, who's right behind him, Kyle Redmond. And here we go with the final lap. Now we're just taking a look here.
Did Kyle Redmond slide by him right there at the end? That's the way it looks right there.
We're going to get an official look at this one more time. We've got currently Redmond and Haker. Was it Redmond in the end who took it over Haker? We'll find out in a few moments as we watch the remainder of the field. The Hart brothers are coming in. If that's the case, what a turn of events as Kyle Redmond looks to have taken the final here. We'll get an unofficial look at this right now, but Redmond, out of nowhere, we've been talking about Haker for the longest time, Colton Haker. How did Redmond do it? We're going to find out in a few moments. It's the men's pro final, and wow, what a race, and it started like this. 12 gentlemen, professional riders, the best of the best. That guy, number 1, Colton Haker. We've been talking about him the entire race, his focus, his concentration over this incredible course laid down by Shane Cuthbertson, a local rider here. And his guy was attacking this course. He could not do any wrong until the final lap. We saw a little slip up. It looked to be in the hands of that gentleman, number 1, Colton Haker. He was in solid control and command of this course. He had a few hiccups along the way, but did it cost him the win? This is a moment that he may be looking at thinking, wait a minute, could that have been the turn of events for opening the door for number 3, Kyle Raymond? This is it right here. Was that the pivotal moment? The pro finals for the men, the two gentlemen congratulating each other, Redmond, Haken, wow. The Red Bull Rocks and Logs, a dramatic finish today, the pro men's finals. What a day this has been. And we see Doug Denantz, he's looking for both of these riders. He wants to chat with them. We're gonna find out for you exactly what happened here, but by the looks of it, in the last few seconds, it looked like Colton Haker slipped up, opening the door for number 3, Kyle Redmond. The unofficial results so far have Redmond, Haker, and the Hart brothers 1, 2, 3, and 4. What a finish this was today from Calgary and this incredible course here. Well, Doug has somebody with them. Who do you got, Doug?
It was all on him the whole way. Man, I'm just talking to them here. What an incredible couple of athletes these two are. I got to come over here and talk to Colton. We were talking about how you had to struggle through that matrix in the hot lap and then ended up being able to kind of go through there, keep very concentrated throughout it. Tell us at the last moment what happened.
You know, my arms were just giving out, and I had to check up on the rock downhill and put it in first. I think I stalled it like 10 times, and I crashed at least twice, and I just couldn't hold on to the bike, and I was just giving my all. But I even checked up before the matrix to like let the hands rest for a second, be like, all right, one more section, let's go. And then I just couldn't hold on to it. No excuses. Kyle was riding like really smooth, and I know Tristan was back there as well, but it's all good.
You know, Colton, I got to tell you, the one thing is you're the number one player, you're the number one entertainer because you ended up having a wonderful finish in that. Let's bring Kyle over here. Kyle, come on over here for a second because, man, we saw you in that hot lap lay down an incredible time. Thought that might have been the way to dial it in. We thought, well, you'll be out in front. You'll be out in front the whole way. All the way through, you were kind of lurking in the weeds there and just waiting for your opportunity. You must have just seen it at that moment, twisted that throttle, and away you went.
Yeah, it was a long race. You know, I was fast today, but I knew it was a long race, and I haven't been riding Endurocross. You know, we've been doing extreme races. Me and Colton just got back from Erzberg, so I was definitely a little tired at the end. Not gonna lie, but yeah, I could see Colton. You know, he had a gap on me, but we're kind of staying like kind of similar. And then the last 2 laps, I messed up that water pit really bad, so he was gone. I wasn't expecting anything, and then I see him loop his bike out in front of me, so yeah, I just was like, all right, nail the matrix and you'll get it, and I did, so.
Well, he was shaking out his hand. We wondered about that foot of yours. You're 100%?
I wouldn't call it 100%, you know, but I was good enough.
You know what? I saw you dabbing that foot down. I thought it had to be go, but I can tell right here by these arms that you certainly managed to pull it out here. Who do we got to thank for making it all happen for you?
Yeah, I want to thank SRT, Craig Thompson right here, Motul, Kenda, CD Boots, 509 Goggles, Husqvarna. Bikes are awesome, and you know, my girlfriend's out here, my family, my friends, you know.
And all those fans and our friends at Red Bull. Ladies and gentlemen, Kyle Redmond wins right here in the pros. Phoenix.
His best time, 1:38. This guy, 2014 Red Bull Rocks and Logs champion, and he does it again in 2017. Kyle Redmond, 28-year-old, a little surprised and truly elated by the finals today. Kyle Redmond, we couldn't have asked for a more picture-perfect day here in Calgary with the sun still beaming down. And what can be said about all the countless volunteers and the tremendous effort that it was laid out by all of these athletes today. The men, the women, the beginners, the intermediate, all of them focused on an incredible mission ahead of them. Yeah, we put a challenge to them. This was a course that was unforgivable. For some of them, they knew the lines, they followed the lines, and they were successful. Some mishaps, some mistakes at the end cost some of these folks some challenges. And this course was indeed a challenge. Some great names here, like Sador and Wilton, and of course, Ford, and some of our ultimate winners too, that took the finish line. Some fun was had here, you bet. You got to throw in a Vespa every now and then. And that's what makes this sport so great. Doug, it has been an absolute pleasure to hang out with you today. Thank you, sir.
Phoenix, it's always fun to spend an afternoon not only hanging out with you, but hanging out here in the sunshine and watching two wheels go round and round. Nothing like it, and it is Canada's only urban Endurocross. I was so glad to be a part of it. Thank you for having me along.
Celebrations will continue, no doubt, throughout the course of the night, but the sights are fixed on the next competition for these incredible athletes who not only have bites of steel, but they have nerves of steel, and they will be awarded with that around their neck. It's been a lot of fun here, and the crew has been absolutely brilliant. We hope you've enjoyed all of these great angles, great action, and the sights and the sounds that make this so much fun. The 2017 Red Bull Rocks and Logs, you gotta hang on. And at the end, there's a little Red Bull waiting for you and a little bit of bravado, a little bit of showing off at the end, but why not? The effort well deserved by so many incredible athletes. What a great crew here, what a great partnership with Red Bull, and what a great sight, pointing the fingers at you and saying, yeah, we hope you come back again. It's been a lot of fun. On behalf of Doug Denantz, my name is Phoenix, and we hope you enjoyed the Red Bull Rocks and Logs live from Calgary, Alberta to Canada. Hey, we'll see you next time.